We are at the Pledge of Allegiance. Ms. Warwick, would you like to lead us in the pledge?
I would. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have a full house tonight. Welcome, everyone. All right. Moving on, we are at item 4, project report. Is Dan here? There he is. I got lost in the crowd there.
Always a seat in the front row.
It's like church.
We'll start with Mill Valley. We're continuing to set steel. The roof joist and metal decking is going on. We'll be wrapping that up later this week. And then last week of this month, we're going to start the brick on the last section of the building. Followed by slot on grade 4 in the library and the remaining areas up in May. Out at the middle school, flooring work is continuing. Later this week, we're actually going to drop the floor in the library. We're currently putting the flooring in the tiered seating area right outside the library. The wood look ceiling tiles are going in the cafeteria. The gym floor is complete. We'll be starting the weight, the wrestling mat lifter and the bleachers toward the end of this month. I'll actually be kicking off our interior punch lists starting on Wednesday. The owner's cleaning crew is working their way through the building right now. Out on the site, we finished the bio pond that's right on the south side of the main drive. That's been installed, as well as the bypass lane work has started. The North Cape ditch line has been tore up, and we'll be setting storm sewer as soon as weather permits. And for the snow flu, we did all the clearing and grubbing in anticipation for the emergency access drive off of Highway. That work is started. Out of Country Meadows, we did the electrical gear replacement over spring break. And we are still tracking, actually 1 year is when we started work out at Mill Valley. And a year work with no lost time. Construction contingency, we're probably about half of what we started with, so we're still doing really good there.
Any questions for Dan? Thank you very much.
Thank
you,
you.
Thanks, Dan.
There's a few other things in the list there. Some information about, just a reminder about facility tours. Feel free to join us, and if those dates and times don't work, we can certainly create a different time and day for you. Additional projects, Jeremiah, you want to just touch base on those?
Sure. The pool, if you drive by, you'll see that the far south wall is getting erected, and they're working on excavating the vessel itself, which is just about done. All the plumbing for the pool vessel is in, so you can see that towards the bottom. And we did start a reoccurring tour, but it'll be during the day with their construction crews. But if there's any time anybody wants to see anything, let me know. Right now it's just a little bit muddy and nothing crazy to see at this time.
Are we behind on the pool now?
Yeah, so we encountered contaminated soils that put us 18 days behind. Our original finish date was August 1st, and now it's been pushed back to September 1st. But we're trying to push them as fast as we can to continue to push the schedule. Any other questions on the pool? Bleachers are also going up. Those have gone up quite fast this past couple weeks. They poured footings about a month ago, and they've been working on putting up the bleachers on the west end of the football field. And they were even out there working today. They had to shovel, it looked like Lambo. They're pushing off the bleachers. That's set to wrap up around the 1st of May, and that actually includes the press box expansion as well. They've pre-built the press box expansion, so they just have to put it up there and make the connection between the buildings. Turf is slated to be installed starting on May 23rd and projected to be completed by August 5th. We have the plans submitted and approved to the state. However, they're kind of hung up with the city, so we're continuing to push the city to either get us any questions they need answered or remedied so we can meet the deadline of the start date. And we are continuing to work with the city and anybody that would be willing to donate towards a scoreboard. So we're looking for advertisers that would be willing to contribute to that project, which would hopefully self-fund a new scoreboard. Last week, the city did approve in concept the size of the scoreboard. They're still considering, though, the advertising piece, because we would place it on the north end of the football field, which would be visible to Woods Road. So they would have to make a decision if they'd allow advertising on the back panel of that. But it seemed to be okay with the size and placement of it. So once we would have funding and finishes picked out, we would then submit to the city, and they would ultimately opt to approve it or not.
We have some information about transitioning schools. So Test Corners had a community open house on April 11th. Amazing turnout. I don't know if many of you were able to show. I know Chris was there, and we had some principals from the past, Joanne Kale and Ron Rivard. It was amazing. So it was a really neat opportunity to see some old staff and to see so many students and families. You know, it kind of teary-eyed, yet understanding the need to move forward with it, and so it was a great event. Muskego L and Country Meadows will be hosting similar events on May 17th for Muskego Elementary, and Country Meadows will be on May 18th. Mill Valley will be having a time capsule celebration on May 30th at 10 o'clock in the morning. What they're doing is having by grade level teachers kind of collecting items to put into the time capsule. They're inviting the board, if you'd like to join them in this celebration. They'd welcome your interest in being part of that, and if you have something you'd like to put into the time capsule. With regard to open houses for the community and for the community, Mill Valley is looking at an open house for the full completion of the project sometime in September. They'll be receiving occupancy is likely going to be mid-August, and then with all of the start of the year things going on, they're looking at a September open house. Come and see the building as it's complete. Muskego Lakes Middle School open house, they will be receiving occupancy likely mid-June. We're exploring right now an August open house date to give enough time for most, if not all, of the furniture to be kind of received and in place and have it look really nice. So those specific dates will be coming forward to the board at a future time.
All right, moving on with consent agenda. Can I get a motion for the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Anything in consent agenda that has questions or needs separate consideration? Hearing none, all those in favor as presented say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Moving on, number item 6, student representation.
Evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Hi.
Good evening.
So this report will be a little bit different from the past ones, just because we're making some changes to the position that will hopefully benefit our community in a much greater way. The past few weeks, Muskego High School Student Council has been working to get more in touch with our general student body to see what they want and what they would like to get out of Student Council so that we can greater benefit them. The first thing we're going to try to do is implement what we're calling climate surveys, just to see how they feel generally about their school day and what they think we can improve. Based on the results of these, we'll try to make some decisions and see what we can change and what we can actually get done. And hopefully, we can eventually branch this out of our school and into our general community. Anybody have any questions about that? All right. And I heard the play Mulan was excellent the other day. So.
All right.
Any questions for him?
No? All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Item 7, acting clerk's report. Mr. Strom.
Board of Canvassers, myself as acting clerk, Rick Petfalski, and community member Charles DuPont met on Monday, April 9th of 2018 to canvass the results of the April 3rd, 2018 school board election. Candidates elected to fill 3 seats for 3-year terms beginning on April 23rd, 2018 are Eric Schrader, Terry Boyer, and Tracy Blair. And the tally sheet is attached if you need to reference that. But the total votes were 3,157 for Mr. Schrader, Ms. Boyer 2660, and Ms. Blair 2602.
Want to go on to item B right away?
Sure, I could go on right away. Where would you like me to administer the oaths?
Front and center.
All right. We'll begin with Mr. Schrader.
I, Eric Schrader, have been duly elected to the office of school board member for the Muskego Norway School District for the period of April 23rd, 2018 through April 26th, 2021, but I have not entered upon the duties thereof. I swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of Wisconsin, and will faithfully discharge the duties of said office to the best of my ability, so help me God.
Congratulations, Commissioner. Terry Boyer. Raise your right hand and read that for me, please.
I, Terry Boyer, have been duly elected to the office of the school board member for the Muskego Norway School District for the period of April 23rd, 2018 through April 26th, 2021, but have not entered upon the duties thereof. Swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of Wisconsin, and will faithfully discharge the duties of said office to the best of my ability, so help me God.
Congratulations. And Tracy Blair. Good, raise your right hand and read that.
I, Tracy L. Blair, have been duly elected to the office of the school board member for the Muskego Norway School District for the period of April 23rd, 2018 through April 26th, 2021, but have not entered upon the duties thereof. Swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of Wisconsin, and will faithfully discharge the duties of said office to the best of my ability, so help me God.
Congratulations, everyone. Moving on to item 8, public forum. This is your opportunity to bring anything to attention to the school board that you want to bring to our attention. Terry and Tracy, this is your last chance to do it as the public. Anyone? Mr. Schaefer?
Anyone? Anyone?
Anyone?
Anyone?
else?
Welcome back.
I think I remember this part. Jim
Name that
Schaefer,
was-
W131 South 6671 Kipling Drive. Certainly congratulations to the candidates who just won re-election, but I came tonight actually to just say thank you to Lisa and Dean for your many years of service to the community. I worked with both of you for many years while I was here, including the beginning of your terms, so I thought I'd come and see the end as well. At least this part, I'm going home for dinner. But I know that there are a lot of things that you could do with your time, and it takes a lot of time away from your family and other things and other opportunities to put the dedication and the time into the district, and I appreciate all that you've done for the community, so thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. Hearing no one else coming up, moving on to item 7, superintendent's report. Dr. Thompson.
Okay, well, I'm going to first start also with a welcome to Terry and Tracy to the school board for Muskego Norway. We are delighted that you'll be joining us every Monday night or every other. So we appreciate your commitment and interest in pursuing this. It's very exciting. And also, Eric, welcome back, and thank you for extending yourself again for another 3-year term. We will miss you, Lisa and Dean. The commitment that you've shown over the number of years that you've served has been tremendous. Our system is better because of your impact and because of the time that you've spent with us. So thank you very much. So we're going to start some recognitions with some staff member recognition, and then we're going to move to some engineering student recognition. So first, I'd like to bring forward our wonderful Kim Knudsen. If you want to come join us up here. So Kim Knudsen was nominated and has received the Cole Fellowship. Now, this is an honor that is bestowed upon very few educators in the state of Wisconsin, and we are so pleased that you're recognized in this way. And truly, you are a great representation of what Muskego Norway is and what we aspire to become. So thank you very much, Kim, for putting yourself out there and representing Muskego Norway in such a wonderful way. So congratulations. I'll just give a little bit of information about the co-fellowship. The fellowship recipients are educators who have been chosen for their superior ability to inspire a love of learning in their students, their ability to motivate others, and their leadership and service within and outside of the classroom. Recipients are selected by a statewide committee comprised of civic leaders and representatives of education-related associations and the program's co-sponsors. There are about 100 educators that were recognized this year in the whole state of Wisconsin. In Muskego Norway's history, we've had 2 others many years ago. So this is quite an honor, so thank you, Kim. Thank you so much.
So we have a certificate of appreciation from the board. It says the Muskego Norway School Board congratulates Bay Lane Middle School teacher Kimberly Knudsen on being named the Herb Cole Education Foundation Inc. Being named by the Herb Cole Education Foundation Inc. as a 2018 recipient of the Herb Cole Teaching Fellowship. To be considered for this prestigious award, teachers must be nominated by students, parents, and other teachers, community members, or administrators. A rigorous screening process is conducted by a statewide committee of civic leaders, education-related groups, and program sponsors who review the plethora of nominations from which a select few are chosen. Kimberly Knudsen was identified as a teacher who exhibits superior ability to inspire a love of learning in her students, the ability to motivate others, along with the leadership and service within and outside the classroom. The Muskego Norway School Board recommends Kimberly for her exceptional teaching ability that brings honor not only to herself, but to the Muskego Norway community and to her students as they learn to grow and succeed. Dated this, today's date, and the board officers. Congratulations. And if you walk into Kim's classroom, it's evident how much she cares about it. It's like all her lesson plans she puts up on the wall there. It's a walking curriculum guide, and it's awesome. The kids, I mean, if the kids ever get stuck on what they forgot like a week ago or so, they can look and see the formulas up there. It's really neat.
She's wonderful. All right, so now we are going to, each year, we go through a process to recognize staff within our own system who rise to a level that demonstrates exceptional student learning and also innovation and outreach to our community. So we have 6 recipients for the Compass this year, and so we're going to introduce each one of them and hear your name if you want to come on up. So Jeff is going to start with our first.
Sure, but before we do that, I just would like to give a little bit of background information about what the Compass Award actually is, because some of you that are sitting here in the audience may not know the exact specifics in what qualifies someone to be a Compass recipient, which is really our highest honor within our system for the incredible work that these educators have done. So really the purpose of the Compass is to reinforce and recognize staff who, through their commitments and contributions, ensure that every student is learning, growing, and succeeding, which is our mission statement. Specifically, the Compass honors staff members who meet designated criteria in the following 4 areas. First, positive impact on students. Second, positive impact on staff, parents, and/or the community. Third, commitment to continuous improvement, leadership and/or service. And fourth, a champion for innovation, creativity, and/or best practice. So essentially, through the Compass Award, parents, students, and staff have an opportunity to nominate Muskego Norway staff members who exemplify these qualities, as I just mentioned. The nomination process includes a minimum of 3 individuals who contribute in writing, documenting how the staff member meets the criteria. A team of administrators and staff members, more specifically staff members who received the Compass Award from the previous year, actually take a look at the application process. They score them, and then together, we as a team select who those Compass recipients are for that year. Last year, Kim Nordley, no surprise, is one of our 2016-17 Compass recipients. So those recipients receive recognition at a board meeting, which is here tonight, and then they're invited to the end-of-year luncheon and will be recognized in front of all the Muskego Norway staff members. And on that particular day, on June 1st this year, they'll actually receive the Compass. So this evening, you'll receive a certificate, and on June 1st, you'll actually receive the Compass in front of your peers. So at this point, Kelly and I are extremely excited to recognize, and we can give a round of applause to the entire group in just a sec. And then we'll call up each individual and read a little bit of what was in the application. So congratulations to our 6 2018 Compass recipients, Lori McCarthy, Nancy Pash, Sarah Stanley, Jeff DeGlopper, John Rosenberg, and Tony Heinowski. Congratulations. So with that said, we will begin with our very first recipients. And again, these things are pulled from the actual nomination packet that we received from staff members, students, and our parents. The very first recipient that we'd like to recognize tonight is Lori McCarthy. Come on up, Lori. Lori is a Muskego Elementary first and second grade teacher who is nominated by her fellow colleagues and parents. Lori has been a champion for multi-age teaching for many years and has used this approach and her skill set to garner incredible results for students. Perhaps what is most impressive about Mrs. McCarthy is the dynamic culture she creates in her classroom. She believes and creates an environment where everyone has something to contribute and all perspectives are valued and shared. This, in the end, results in a structure where learning experiences raise the social and intellectual capabilities of all students. Lastly, Lori is viewed by teachers in her building across the district and state of Wisconsin as a leader and innovative practitioner around literacy practices. Lori has led a multitude of book studies, professional development sessions, and presentations to colleagues in district and around the state that contribute to lift the practice of others. Congratulations, Lori. So we're going to take a pic with you, Lori, if we can. Do we want to do it individually? Okay.
Gotcha. Looking snazzy. All right. Got it.
Next, we'd like to recognize Nancy Pash. Come on up, Nancy. Nancy is one of our Project I teachers at Baleen Middle School who was nominated by a group of teachers across multiple grade levels. In fact, Nancy is one of the original pioneers and trailblazers of personalized learning in our district as she started Project I at Baleen. Since starting Project I in 2011-2012, interest from students and families wanting to participate has more than doubled. Thanks in large part to Nancy's commitment to students and relationships she has formed with students and their families. One student was quoted as saying, "After 2 years of teaching me, Ms. Pash's motivation and loving personality have helped me in both my academics and my life." Some other very noteworthy contributions Nancy has made is her belief in getting students involved in service projects. For example, she has led efforts of delivering cards and treats to Muskego Police Department to show appreciation, led the annual food drive and fundraiser for the local food pantry, and supported a major fundraiser with students at the school level. Lastly, Nancy has developed a strong reputation in growing her teaching colleagues as she leads and creates multiple sandbox professional development days that allow staff to have a differentiated learning opportunity. Congratulations, Nancy.
Ready? 1, 2, 3. Got it. Congratulations.
is not in the house, so we will move on to
Okay.
our next.
Jeff Glapper. Jeff makes his way to the front here. We are incredibly thankful that Jeff serves Muskego Norway Schools. He is a Muskego High School teacher, teaching both physics and Project Lead the Way courses. He was nominated not by just one set of nominators, but three. Three separate teams. One from his robotics group, one from his science peers, and another from his tech ed peers. Jeff lives by his motto, imagination plus creativity plus knowledge equals endless possibilities. His positive impact on students is seen daily in his support of all students, guiding their learning through questioning, providing engaging project-based learning experiences, and ultimately ensuring that each child succeeds. Jeff started the school's first robotics club, the Warrior Bots, last year, and then he also authored and a new course was approved, robotics, in which we have 75 students enrolled in the 18-19 school year, so huge, it's just wonderful. Jeff's positive impact on staff and the community includes leading professional development opportunities for peers, mentoring new teachers, writing successful grants, and inviting science community members in to support our students. He embodies continuous improvement and innovation through his efforts to grow numbers in Project Lead the Way and obviously other courses. His use of flipped classroom techniques, his orchestration of fundraising efforts, his community outreach, and his willingness to take on leadership roles. So Jeff, congratulations on being nominated and receiving the 2018 Compass. Next up, Rosenberg. John Rosenberg, Rosie, Coach, I don't know, what else? What other names do you go by?
Okay.
Okay, I'm not going to say that one. Okay, well, we thank John for his incredible service to our system as a teacher for over 42 years and a coach for over 32 years. John was nominated by a team of his colleagues. His impact on students is evident in his humor, love, and compassion for students. John goes above and beyond by volunteering on medical response teams, supervising sporting events, coaching all-star games, and volunteering at the Muskego Days Festival. In the classroom, John motivates student learning through a variety of engaging learning experiences, and as a coach has led teams to 20 WIAA sectional meets and to 12 times to the championship level. Due to his team's 436 wins, he will soon be entered into the Wisconsin Fast Pitch Softball Coaches Association Hall of Fame. We will miss him in the years to come as he decided to retire after this school year. But congratulations on a long and a very successful career serving students and for being recognized as one of our 2018 Compass recipients. Tony Heinowski. Tony, oh, there you are. Here. We are grateful for Tony's amazing ability to bring consistency, positivity, and highly engaging environment to each of our elementary and middle school libraries as our K-8 librarian, technology integrator. Tony was nominated by a team of staff and administrators. In her role, Tony has curated a collection of online resources for students and continues to build strong relationships with kids and create strong and engaging library lessons, which she often delivers virtually. Alongside teachers, Tony has provided students with opportunities to experience Google Expedition, which is actually something we're going to be experiencing tonight, And then also 3D printing, maker spaces, and breakout EDU. She is known to do anything to give students new educational experiences, ensure students have ongoing access to books, even during the summer months, and greet students with a smile to ensure that they know that in the library, they are always welcome. Tony provides training to staff, is Muskego Norway Schools representative to the Muskego Public Library Board, and is an important member on district committees including social studies, literacy, science, and the curriculum planning committee. We are proud of the efforts Tony puts in every day to ensure staff and students are equipped to utilize the most cutting-edge technology to enhance their learning. Congratulations, Tony, on receiving the 2018 Compass. All right, so now we're going to get a picture of all the Compass recipients. It's all 5 of you who are here. Thank you for coming back up. Let's give them another round of applause.
Come on in, come on in, come on in.
You're fine.
Oh, that's a good looking. All right.
Keep us having cut off.
One more. 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
Congratulations.
Karen Lindholm, do you want to come on up? We are going to be recognizing some students actually now through the experiences that they've received through the engineering programs. You want to give us a little background on what these students do for? Just Badger State and...
So these are, the students being recognized tonight are students of my engineering design and development class, which is the capstone course of the Project Lead the Way group. They come in September with ideas already, in this case August, with ideas already in hand. Then they spend a couple of months figuring out what their best ideas are, and then they choose their own team. So they've chosen their own idea. I have not told them what to do. They have chosen their own teams because sometimes that usually works out. They then spend the next 6 months doing research and development on their project. They're setting up their own tests. They're coming up with like what that research is going to do once they figure out what it is. So they come up with an idea, they test it. They've come up with an idea because of that testing, and then they test it. So they went to the Capital State Science and Engineering Fair in Madison. They ended up doing the Waukesha County Fair, and then they all went to the Badger State Science and Engineering Fair. They won lots of awards.
Thank you for your guidance and leadership. So let's give her a round of applause. So if the students who are being recognized could come and stand up alongside here, then we'll call you by your team and give you a reward. Is that okay?
Yes.
Ready, and 1, 2, hitting. Okay. So I will read one certificate in full, and then for the future certificates, denote the team and then what particular awards they won. So the first team is Abigail Warwick and Hunter Bindis.
So if you could come a step forward, that'd be great.
You sure you got those last names right?
Yeah.
She looks awfully familiar. Their team project was development of a grass variety as a way to remove nitrogen. Their awards included first place in Badger State Engineering category, the Philip Strike Memorial Award, and the Stockholm Junior Water Prize. So again, I'll read the certificate through. The School Board of the Muskego Norway School District hereby commends Abigail Warwick for her outstanding accomplishment of earning first place in the Badger State Science and Engineering Fair in the Environmental Sciences category. Abigail Warwick is to be commended for her team project titled Development of a Grass Variety as a Way to Remove Nitrogen from Water Environments. The team also earned the Philip Strike Memorial Award, the fair highest award,
and the Stockholm Junior Water Prize, providing opportunity to progress to an international fair. Please, win that, go to Stockholm. Through this achievement, it's not on here. Through this achievement, Abigail Warwick has brought honor not only to herself and to her family, but to the Muskego Norway schools and community as well. The Muskego Norway School Board wishes Abigail Warwick success in her future educational and career endeavors. Presented today, signed by me and the other board members. Congratulations, Abigail. Hunter, you won the exact same thing on the same team. Congratulations. Ryan Gillespie and Andrew Grady. So the same certificate, gentlemen, your team project, Space Debris Removal via a Rotating Tether, won the award of first place in Badger State Physics, Math, Computer Science category. Congratulations, Ryan. Congratulations, Andrew. Kyle Ignasiak, Elise Prangy, and Alyssa Brodzinski. The team project, redesigning river turbines to produce electrical energy more efficiently, won the award's second place in Badger State Engineering category, American Meteorological Society Award, and the United States Air Force Award. Congratulations, Kyle. Levi Leonard and Dawson Grohol. Your team project, application of graphene water filter with removable sleeves. Third place in Badger State Engineering category, RICHOH Sustainable Development Award, Stockholm Junior Water Prize, and the MacGyver Award for SCI Engineering and American Science and Surplus. Levi, congratulations. CJ Herrera and Jacob Calvino. Team project, a device to minimize mortality from wind turbine collision, won the award of International Optics and Photonics Award. And Noah Entringer and Matthew Jensen. Team project, improving efficiency of wind turbines by altering the blades. The Genius Award was awarded to Noah and Matthew. Noah, congratulations.
Wow. Yeah, if you would like to see their work, the engineering presentation event is on May the 3rd, both during lunchtime, which bring all your friends from work, and then in the evening from 5:30 until 7.
All right, so can we transfer you over in 2 lines, maybe?
Now pretend it's about one step back.
It's too late.
We got it.
Good?
Ready? 1, 2, 3, and one more. 1, 2, 3. Stay where you are. Some people might want that.
Oh, wait.
Out.
Getting them.
Okay, thanks, Rob.
All right.
New school board members, that's it.
That's hard to do. And as the room empties, we are now interested in recognizing our newest member of our administrative team. Chad, if you want to come on up. The board just approved Chad for the position of Muskego Lakes Middle School Associate Principal. This is part of his entry, navigating.
Showing his nimbleness of. Like a crowded hallway.
Please.
All right.
So, hello again.
Hello. I really know how to clear a room. Thanks again for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity. I'm extremely excited to join the team, to work with Rachel and the teachers that are currently at Bayland, transitioning to Muskego Lakes Middle School. This is my 21st year in education, and the bulk of it has been spent with 5th and 6th grade students. So the opportunity to work with that age group is extremely exciting. Those are the years that they start to really form an identity of who they are, what they want to be, trying to discover themselves. So I'm excited to join this district. I'm a parent of 2 daughters. They're in the district. I live in Muskego. So I valued and understood the district from a parent perspective. And from afar as an educator, I've always admired the work that you do. And I hope to one day work here. So now I'm very excited to have that be a reality and to join you. So again, thank you, and I appreciate it.
Thank you, Chad.
Thank you.
Okay, next I just wanted to recognize our boys swim and our girls basketball coaches and athletes for being recognized by WIAA with the Sportsmanship Award. So that's wonderful. Congratulations to them. And now we are up for an annual report by the Tilt team. So we'll transition into that. Are you guys ready back there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, while you, is there anything else I can just touch base on here?
End of year luncheon.
End of the year luncheon is on June 1st at 11 o'clock. So if anybody is interested in attending, just let us know. We'd love to have you. Contributions to the profession is listed there as well. So.
Hello. Good
Hello.
evening. So I'm Emily Dittmar, the high school library media specialist. Also speaking with me tonight is Compass Award winner, Tony Hainosky, which I'm super excited about. So we are going to give you a brief look into our lives as we do technology integration this year. I need a code. Did it pop up?
Oh, am I blocking you?
No, you're not.
Yeah, I guess.
Come on.
We'll go to the menu.
We only had people that were using technology.
I do have your report up.
Put it on the to-do list.
There you go. I'll see if it comes up on your end.
Showing up on mine. I can jump up there.
Oh, there you go.
0127.
I don't know if we were gonna get to do this.
Oh, just wait. All right, so we're getting you all set up. You're all in. Tony's gonna come and talk about some of the library merges this year because she's been planning for a very long time. We will continue to pass out devices.
I don't know.
I was here over spring break.
So, at the K-8 level, we have some planning that we've been doing since 2016.
Pause it.
Once
Yes,
we,
pay attention.
I wish we had this recorded right now.
It's never happens in a classroom. They're smart enough that they hand out the toys before you talk.
so to make sure that we have good listening, we have to see that she's set now. So we've been planning quite a bit. So Test Corners and Country Meadows will become Bay Lane Elementary. So right now what we're doing is we are splitting Bay Lane and Country Meadows libraries in half. So we have them, and they'll go to their respective areas. ME and Mill Valley are joining, and then we also have Muskego Lakes coming. So what I've been planning for these last 2.5 years, it seems, or year and a half, is how do we combine all of these books? We had so many materials, so many things. I went through, looked at the statistics of the library, how old our materials were, how many items we have, and we went ahead and we started the weeding process. We also, I would work at one school in the morning, one in the afternoon, and make sure we would have copies of each item. So we will be prepared by May 31st. We'll be all ready to move. And then Mr. Johnson will let us know when we can get into the buildings. And this year at Mill Valley, we moved mid-year. We have everything on carts, so no matter what, day one we'll have our libraries open. They may not have everything on the right or in the shelves in there, but we'll have carts. We'll start business right away. So we're very excited. The kids are very excited. So that's where we're at with that.
Okay, so tonight we want to kind of just reflect on where we've come with some of our technology integration. So Bragwood EDU we brought a couple years ago, we did with our leadership team, and now we have seen that it is truly integrated into the curriculum. So I always have like the classes, like I just had psychology come back in because they do one on the brain. And so it's a really great way where, so there's locks on a box, if you don't know, that you can see like the kids in the corner. And there's clues like hidden around the classroom of the library and they have to figure it out. And so they have to break it open. So now it's integrated into the curriculum. So it's not just a fun activity, but it's like, okay, what did we learn in class and with our notes and what we can do. And we're seeing that throughout the levels of where we're going.
So the last few years I brought you name tags, showed you different items that we've 3D printed. We are now at the point with our 3D printer that in FACE classes, it's a summative assessment of what they are printing. I'm working with 6th grade math, and we are starting a formative assessment that the kids have to demonstrate symmetry, a few other concepts, and so we're building that up, and we'll move forward with that next year. So each year, more and more kids are coming on. During our makerspace time that we have at Lake Danoon, which we'll have at Muskego Lakes next year, I have girls who are clamoring to do 3D printing. And as everybody knows, you can't always get those girls to get in and to do some of those technical things. And they're thrilled. They have gone beyond what I ever thought they would do. And now they're pushing me to really learn more and more so I can teach them more. So it's really become a part of what we do.
And at the high school, we have Carolyn Overkins was here before, like her class really uses those 3D printers all the time to make those prototypes, so that's where it's, and in the tech center it can be a pathway for BMIT. So now, we want to show you the new thing that we have this year is Google Expeditions. So we are one of the forefront districts using Google Expeditions in our area. So we first heard about it through the school district of South Milwaukee, and they were gracious enough to loan us their kit so that we could see if it would work for us. And Tony and I took it to WINTA, which is the Wisconsin Educational Media and Technology Association. We did a presentation there so that other districts can see if this is a good investment for them. So at the high school, we've done it in various sections, so psychology, world history, Spanish 3, and anatomy. So in psychology, they used it for like note-taking, and anatomy, because like they have like different like systems that you can go through, so they're kind of animated. In world history, they got to experience the trenches before they wrote a letter home from the trenches. And in Spanish 3, they did some other cultural ones. So it's a really great way to, take kids to a place where they might not afford to be able to go, and a different way to learn information.
So at the middle school, it was really easy to integrate this right into their curriculum. 6th grade science does a whole units on rocks and minerals, and there's a presentation that Dr. Thompson will be sharing with you tonight on the Grand Canyon. It referenced the same things as the unit did, so it was an easy one to integrate. Once we did that, word of mouth went, and I have to limit it to two times a week because we have social studies. A fun one that we're going to do is for career and college ready is chocolate taster. So we're going to do that in teen cuisine and a chef one in there. So they're very excited about that. And we did do one on a day at North Carolina State. So the kids got to experience what it's like to go to college and saw some things. So it's been well received for both of us at both levels.
Okay, we'll see if this plays. So this is one of the first times we did expeditions, and it's just my favorite.
The audio will show up.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
That's okay, we'll watch it later. But, okay, so, I'll just audio. So what you hear now is going, what you guys were doing before. So how often have you seen sophomores do this? Okay, and my favorite part is in the back, they're like, oh, look up, and then look down, and then like they start like turning around in their chairs. So it's just always fun. It happens every single time we do this. Just the joy, bliss, and wonder. So you will get to experience that tonight as well. So here's some things to remember. If you need a break, please take off the glasses. Some people get a little seasick, so if you anchor your elbows on the table, a lot of times that'll stabilize you. Let the teacher know if you're coming to, that's us. So yeah, we can give you a 2D option so that you can still participate if it gets to be a little bit much. Okay?
And all you have to do is raise your hand and we'll come to you.
Yeah.
And so what we're going to demonstrate truly is Dr. Thompson came in, she saw what was happening in a class, viewed it, practiced a little bit, and she's going to be the rock star tonight. Yeah. So this is exactly what we do with the teachers. We're there and we really are helping them to learn this new technology, and the credibility they get with their kids, it's just, as Emily said, I have 7th graders who are going to do their third one, or they did do their third one, and all you hear is, ooh, oh my gosh, look at, it's like I'm really there, I can't believe it, this is amazing. And so this is really the great part of our job as tech integrators, is we give the teachers tools. Our job is to make them look good, and this one really helps us.
Ooh,
Look out.
There's always someone.
Somebody's got to be taking pictures. Tony?
yeah.
I think he's videotaping the whole thing.
Hey, I've been here.
Whoa.
We're not bungee jumping, are we? I see all your little smiley faces on my little board as you're looking around at everything.
Really?
Yeah. Well, I don't see your actual faces, you're just smiley faces. All right, so I'm going to talk now, and then when I'm going to ask you to move to something, I'm going to go 3, 2, 1, and then you're going to move to where, I guess it's kind of like a arrow is pointing you at, okay? But right now you can look around. It is easy to see why the Rio Colorado got its name. Colorado means colored red in Spanish, and the river is red with the silt it carries down from the Rocky Mountains. The mighty Colorado River flows southwest 1,450 miles through 7 U.S. and 2 Mexican states before it reaches the Gulf of California. On its way in northwestern Arizona, it continues to carve the Grand Canyon just as it's done for millions of years. So 3, 2, 1. You're going to follow that. You see that? I'm seeing all your little smiley faces moving down. That's the White Water Rapids. Below the Grand Canyon, the White Water Rapids of the Colorado River widen into Lake Mead, the largest reservoir in the United States, formed by the Hoover Dam. There, nearly 90% of the river is redirected to irrigate California's vast farmlands. So 3, 2, 1. You can see a different image. You can take a peek around there. Geologists disagree about the actual age of the canyon. It could be anywhere from 5 million to 70 million years old. But in the colorfully ribboned walls of the Grand Canyon, you can observe billions of years of Earth's history. 2 geological forces contributed to the canyon's formation: the uplifting of the Colorado Plateau, a 130,000 square mile area spanning Colorado, New Mexico, Arizona, and Utah, and the slow cut of the Colorado River. Okay, 3, 2, 1, sorry, I went faster than I wanted to.
Whoa.
The supergroup rocks, layers of metamorphic and igneous rock, known as the Vishnu basement rocks, exposed at the inner gorge's bottom, are 2 billion years old. Above them are the supergroup rocks, seen here, and softer sedimentary rock from the Paleozoic age. 3, 2, 1, and we're moving to the volcanic activity. We're moving. At various times between 100,000 and 3 million years ago, volcanic activity deposited ash and lava over the area and added yet another dimension to the geologic sculpture. Geologists read such events in the rocks to determine their age. So there you go.
Very cool.
Okay, so as an example, this is how the teachers start their first time. They get comfortable with it. By the second time, they're becoming much more proficient with the technology, and they're becoming interactive. The kids will take the goggles down. There's questions they'll ask. We're moving now with one of the middle school classes. We have a Google Classroom set up, and there's activities that they'll do along with it. So we start off giving them the tools, and then we help them integrate it, and it becomes like the breakout EVU. It just becomes what they do. So we're really fortunate. We're really lucky to have such a fun job.
Well, thank you for bringing such wonderful technologies into our system, too, to really engage students and fun ways to learn things, so appreciate it. Any questions?
So where's the software? I mean, Google does all the software. Is it, like, if I bought one of these goggles, would I be able to go online and download the different views and stuff?
So it's a free app called Google Expeditions. So because we keep a lot of the technology with us, as a technology team, we have the teachers download it on either their, like, they have on any phone because it's Android or Apple compliant. So they practice on their own phone, and then they can use our stuff, like, with the classes. So if you notice, really what we're paying for technology. So there's a phone without a SIM card in each viewer.
Yeah.
So that's what it runs.
Okay.
And when you tell the middle schoolers, yeah, there's no SIM card, as much excitement as you hear, because they can't do anything. We get to control it, so it's kind of fun that way too.
Yeah, I just saw these on clearance at Walmart last week.
And the
I was
kids-
tempted to buy one, and I just didn't know what they all did. So.
Yeah, and the kids will say, a number of them have them from Christmas, and they actually don't really know how to really operate them. I think they've learned quite a bit from doing it in class, so. That's cool.
Anything else?
This is really nice.
Thank you. Well, thank you.
You know they want it back, Chris, right? Yeah.
All right, so we have a Muskego High School team here to talk about advisory period, and Jeff will also kind of share some information as well, so.
Go straight to follow the Grand Canyon.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for that. That was a great time. Maybe
We got some props or anything?
I'm Mr. Peterson. So,
Wow.
Were you around for its beginning, or?
Should you be bringing up?
So did you bring anything
I can dance.
to play with or no?
Treats?
Should not dance. Treats. I could sing.
No, please.
Yeah,
I've
then
seen
we're
you
not along,
sing.
so I will try to move through this efficiently and effectively. Really appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight.
This one? Isn't that it?
That's it.
Oh, nice.
Will you click for me?
I'll click for you.
Thank you, sir. appreciate the opportunity to have the conversation tonight about the potential of moving forward with an advisement period. From the first year that I was able to join the Muskego High School staff, one of the conversations that continued to pop up as we looked at what's working well within our building, where do we have gaps, how do we continue to make sure we are meeting the needs of every single student who walks our halls. The conversation continued to come back around our why and our mission statement of ensuring that every single student in our building finds success. And that when we are aware of a student who isn't having success, we have the structures and the resources and the supports built in so we can ensure that we can do that. So again, when I think about the different things in our building and on our staff that inspire us, it was the continuous conversations around, we know we have students who are failing, and we can't always get them within the class period time. We try our best, and sometimes there's a need for a little bit more. And what other time do we have built in our day to do that? And oftentimes our go-to thing is to say, hey, can you come in after school? Can you come in before school? Could you come in during our lunch? And we run into lots of roadblocks, but the conversation continued to come back around. What do we do to make sure we're really living our mission? And then it expanded beyond that to not just our students who are struggling, but also our high-end students, our top students, our students who are in 4 AP classes, 5 AP classes, who are in clubs and activities, and yet are seeking other opportunities to continue to enrich their experience through Muskego High School. So that really was our commitment to saying, let's live our mission, and let's look at what kind of other ways we can extend the opportunities for all students. So that was our why. Combined with the work around the vision of a graduate, it was really kind of a powerful experience. It was really pretty enjoyable to be a part of, hearing the different things that our parents, our students, our staff said, hey, these are things that we would like to engage in our journey of educating our students in their 9-12 experience. We talked about certain things, certain skills, habits, dispositions, and we looked at our curriculum. We said, where do these things fit in? And we had lots of really cool and neat ideas, but the challenge is it really comes down to students selecting a course where that's a focal point or an opportunity. And again, if these are some things that we really value and we want to ensure that every kid has exposure to this, do we have a space built where we can guarantee that? Or sometimes with choice comes the opportunity to, I've engaged in all of these things, but maybe I've missed some other things that are high value, like Warrior's Way and some of the character things. So these are all things that contribute to our why and our conversation around why would we need an advisement period. So we kind of took a look, and one of the things that first sparked with me was at the end of the day when we're saying goodbye to students, we're watching our buses roll out of our driveway at about 2:34. So really school ends at 2:25, and within 10 minutes, there's a huge percentage of our students who are exiting our campus. And I watch students that I know are struggling in our classes. I watch students who I know need extra help. And we engage in conversations with those students. We're like, okay, well, what can you do to stick around after school? Our teachers are here way before school. They stick around way after school. Can you come in for help? And we hear the stories, well, you know, my parents work. I can't get a ride. I have no other way to stick around after school. So we know we have a challenge right now that we have students leaving an opportunity to get help, but they simply can't because of transportation. So our focus originally started with academic support. And if we were able to create an advisement period, how would it support our students' learning? And again, we had conversations around students who struggle, things like RTI. Right now, our students who engage in interventions are taking away one of their 7 periods to select a class, and that's the time when we are providing them the extra support to really get their skills up to an area where we need them. Could an advisement be a place where we could maybe offer RTI services differently? There are districts where that happens. We think about things that are great opportunities for students like writing labs, where after school our teachers give great support in that, but again, it happens after school. Opportunities for tutoring. Sometimes it happens during our lunches, sometimes it happens during study halls, but not all kids take study halls. Tutoring also provides an opportunity not just for the student who struggles, but for our high-end students to experience that feeling of giving back and mentoring a student. And some of the highest level of learning happens when you actually explain a concept and support your peers. Other opportunities that could present themselves, things like AP and CAP study groups. We think about our students who are heading off to a 4-year college and how frequent it is that students at that next level, one of those first skills they gain, how do I work with other students to really study and prepare for some of these high stakes tests that they're exposed to at the college level? Other things like makeups, tests, and quizzes. I think about some of our student athletes who have to leave school early to go participate and represent our school in great competitions. They're missing class, and then they're expected to come back the next day, whether it be before school or during the lunchtime. If they have a study hall, possibly it could be then. But if they don't, when do they make that up? The reality is as well, an advisement period could create an increased flexibility in scheduling. Again, I think about some of our high-end students who are taking multiple AP classes, who have a passion for arts. Maybe they're in music, band, or choir, and they're in a world language, Oftentimes, these students don't have time for a study hall, or they really want a study hall, so they take some classes fully online in the summertime. If you have time built into your day for students to get extra help, or maybe just to get some work done, many districts have described that as a huge advantage for their high-achieving students. Thinking about the social-emotional support, the concept that we want every warrior to be connected in our building. I think about 1,600 plus students walking through our building, and I think about the opportunity, how do we know that every single one of those kids has an adult in the building who knows them and knows them really well? Most places that have an advisement period have it set up to where they have a consistent adult for their entire 4-year experience. So from the time you walk in as a freshman, you get to spend 1 day a week in a short advisement period where you actually get a chance to know that adult, and they get to know you. They can do grade checks, and they can really monitor your progress. So again, it's really an opportunity for us to ensure that, again, our kids have an adult in the building who knows them well and can help monitor their progress as they move through. It's an opportunity to provide things like support groups. We've had many conversations about drugs and alcohol. I've been extremely grateful for our partnership with Rosecrans. Students who struggle with some decisions in our building or in our community have the opportunity to engage in some support about healthy decision making. Well, the challenge is some of these students are at risk for many factors. We ask them to come and partner with Rosecrans, but oftentimes that involves them missing a class. So we're asking students to get help and support for making healthy lifestyle decisions, but we don't have time built in our day for them to do so without creating a different challenge, and that's missing a class time. There are lots of other support groups that could often run. We have so many students who struggle with very real challenges, whether it be anxiety, grief, AODA support, concerned others. There's some really powerful activities that could happen in a time that's not forcing a student to compromise their academic goals and their efforts, and creating a time and a space and a place where they could do so and really enrich that experience. I think about the enrichment opportunities. Again, oftentimes our decisions and our conversations stem from how we support our at-risk kids. There is great leverage and power behind the opportunities this creates for all learners. We think about things like ACT prep classes. Right now, we have great buy-in from much of our staff, but again, is it all students? Can we ensure that every single student is in a class where they offer ACT prep opportunities? Yet we know the power behind the test score, and with a flexible time where students could make a choice to say, hey, I am a college-bound student and I really need my ACT to be bumped up, this would be a time that would not be invasive, that could really provide our students an advantage. Things like personal finance. We hear all the time about how students might not have the skills they need until they get out after high school. We have some courses they can take, but not all students take those classes. They might hit a point in their high school career where they want to buy a car, and now they're ready to hear and listen a little bit more, and that creates a partnership with us to tap out to a local banker and say, hey, would you be willing to come in during an advisement period and host a sectional on personal loans? There's all sorts of partnerships that can really enhance our learning, where it's not just our staff running these. We can tap on community partnerships, bring in career speakers, speak about nursing careers. What's it like to work in a hospital? But right now, we don't have a space and a time built in where if that was going to happen, it would have to be one particular class. But again, that creates the same barrier where it's not all students. Music lessons, career speakers, scholarship workshops, those are just more examples of other opportunities we could go. The reality is we're committed to a process of continuous improvement. And again, we understand that this is a commitment to changing our schedule, and it's not something that we took lightly. As a staff, we talked about how would we know if this is working? Because to make a change without fully understanding what you hope to accomplish is just misleading your group. So we had a good conversation around where do we think this could show up. We spoke with other districts who have already done this and the things they've taken a look at. So things like ACT. Is it going to have an impact if we have students who, from the time they are freshmen, if they struggle, we can connect them to more support? If we can offer ACT prep classes, if we can ensure that students have the support they need if they hit a barrier to overcome that. And we believe that that would show up in our ACT and our Aspire scores. Many districts have tracked their failures. Students who, again, are struggling lose a little bit of the choice in their advisement period, and they're assigned different places. So again, we can help them make sometimes the decisions that they may not want to make, but we can leverage them into there. We can also create some great reinforcement opportunities, so when they overcome that, there can be some more enrichment opportunities when that happens. And again, things like course requests and elective areas. So right now, some of our students feel like they don't have enough time in their day to take a study hall because they value that. They value a chance to kind of just disconnect from the high pressure that they're involved with the multiple AP classes and balancing their passions in music and world languages. If an advisement period is built into your day, Many places state that their their elective area requests actually go up, because now a student feels like I can take some time in my day to take an art class or take a PE class and actually do something that I want to do, because I've got a portion of my day built in when I can actually get some work done, because I have work after school, I have a sport after school. It just really helps them balance their time. Most importantly, again, we go back to the concept of engagement and ensuring that we've got opportunities to make sure every student is connected. Different districts have done some things to allow club participation, things like our amazing student council who talks about they want to have a greater connection with our student body. One challenge they face right now is they try to do things during lunchtime. And the sad reality is when you are given the choice as a young adult between pizza or sitting with our student council, sometimes they don't always make the decision we want. Yet you could set up opportunities to have student-led groups that provide enrichment opportunities, that talk about what's working well in our building and what else do we need to do to grow this. We talk about attendance. Students, again, who feel connected in a building, their attendance goes up. If they have that one consistent adult who knows them throughout their 4-year experience, you have one person who can watch if something's happened, who probably has a much better idea if something is changing in that student's disposition, their behavior, their appearance. Having that consistent adult matters in the high school time. Other places have measured discipline referrals. One of our greatest challenges right now is during lunchtime, and in particular the passing period in 5B, just because of the logistics of trying to transition 500 students in and 500 students out. There's an overlap and a downtime. Other places have tracked their discipline referrals and what happens during those times. A change in our schedule would afford us a slightly different approach to our lunch schedule, and we believe it would really help with that. We've had a lot of conversations around ACP and how do we ensure that every single student has an opportunity to connect their passions and their goals and their dreams and understand how that aligns them to life after high school and the amazing opportunities that they have. One of the challenges we face right now is our counselors typically pull students out of an academic class. That's their best chance to deliver that information. An opportunity with an advisement period sets it up so every single student has those options without missing out on something else. So again, it's one of the things that we continue as a staff to talk about. There's a lot of excitement around the possibilities. Tonight we've just said, just honestly the tip of the iceberg. Many of the districts that we're chasing from an achievement standpoint, ACT and other academic criteria, have an advisement period. More districts than not in Waukesha County currently have it. Our staff is excited about it. I've rolled it out to our principal's cabinet. The feedback from our students that I spoke with were extremely excited about it. We've just done some very tentative work around possibly what a schedule might look like. That's the final slide. As we've spoke with other districts, the sweet spot really is 30 minutes to 35 minutes. So we just right now tentatively talked about 2 of them. All schedules have some pros and cons, but it's something that if we have some interest in, we'd really like to explore further. We'd like to take a group of staff members who are interested to speak and actually go to some specific districts who really feel like it's been a very powerful thing for their student body.
So one of the things that obviously potentially could be a barrier to an advisement period is the schedule and the amount of minutes in our day in order to make that happen. So one of the things that we took on as a calendar committee this year was to study the number of instructional minutes in a given day here in Muskego, Norway, in comparison to not only Waukesha County, but we collected data around 35 other districts. This next slide shows you the school districts in Waukesha County that we were able to ascertain and get their data. And you can see across the board from elementary to middle to high school, we have the lowest number of instructional minutes in a day in the student schedule in comparison to the other Waukesha County school districts. In fact, anywhere between 15 to 20 or even more minutes, depending on what level you take a look at. So one of the things that we talked about with Mr. Irvine in the calendar committee as he was sharing advisement period information, what is it that you would need in order to make this happen? This is some of the data that we collected, and we're taking a look at possibly exploring what would it look like if we added 15 to 20 minutes per day to our student day, so that it puts us more in line with the other school districts not only in Waukesha County, but also regionally. As I said, 35 school districts that we collected data on, all in the Milwaukee area and Waukesha County area, where we were the lowest across the entire board. So 15 to 20 minutes seemed to be that number that would be able to allow that to happen. So again, we continue to explore that as a calendar committee, because obviously if you had 15 to 20 minutes, there might be an impact on elementary and middle school. So what does that look like? So if we added 15 to 20 minutes to the elementary day, one of the things that has surfaced multiple times, at least in my 3 years here, serving in my current role, the lunch period and the amount of time that students get to eat lunch at the elementary level. It's been stated that they don't have enough time to finish their lunches, and they're rushed out to go outside for recess, which really doesn't serve well our students. Are not getting the proper nutrition or not having opportunity to eat and add fuel to their bodies. If you recall the wellness policy that was just reviewed over the previous 3 board meetings, there was language in there that specifically was asking school districts to allow 20 minutes for students to actually eat their lunch. As it currently stands, our students have less time than that. Again, when you consider the amount of time that they're waiting in line, and then having to move groups, cycle them through the cafeteria, getting them out for recess, this would afford us some more time and flexibility to be able to build in a constant lunch where they're able to eat and finish their lunches every day, as well as in that wellness policy, 2 15-minute recesses that students all the way up through 5th grade would be allowed to participate in. Again, it gives us a little bit more wiggle room and flexibility to be able to make that happen, as well as some additional instructional minutes that could happen in science, social studies, literacy, or math. And then as we take a look at the middle school, if we were to add 15 to 20 minutes at the middle school level, our middle school administration during the calendar committee was actually talking very similar as what Todd was. What would an advisement period look like at the middle school? Could we add it? Could we mimic it very similar to what the high school is talking about? So again, they're beginning to explore, we're beginning to have conversation at the middle school level, and it really might fit in very well with phase 2 of the middle school schedule, with this year being phase 1. If we added that time, could we add an advisement period into it? So at this time, we're not making any type of requests. It's really more for information and allow you guys to ask questions well in advance, because this would be something that we'd be looking at in the year 2019-20 school year. So certainly would entertain any questions that you might have at this time for either Todd or myself.
So how would that period work with, how's it going to be staffed? So is it, like, essentially, sounds like you're talking about like a homeroom teacher type thing. And if you're going to do that, does the student retain that same contact all 4 years of their high school?
So basically, most places that have seen it as highly effective, Mondays are your homeroom experience, where you have a check-in, a grade check, a conversation on what are you going to do for the next 4 days of the week. Those remaining 4 days, students would be scheduled into places. So there's lots of tools out there. Infinite Campus can actually do it, as well as many places use it. It's called FlexiSched, where teachers upload a schedule of, this will be my Algebra 2 help time, this is my Geometry help time. And the homeroom teacher on Monday would hand schedule a student into the places they would need to go if they need help. If it's a student that's doing well and grade checks are going well, they could access some of the enrichment things, or could volunteer to be a tutor, or again, could sign up to be a part of a study hall during that time. So it's basically flexible, and it's built on the Monday homeroom check-in time.
So that contact teacher, would that staff member stay with the student all 4 years, or would that change every year, or how?
We're still working through that. Ideally, we would have that same homeroom teacher be their homeroom teacher throughout their 4-year experience. All the districts that we connected with had it that way. There's some diversity around. Some students have it as a homogeneous group, where it's like, my homeroom is only freshmen. Other groups have it a little bit more diverse, where they have 5 seniors, 5 juniors, 5 sophomores, 5 freshmen. So there's a little bit of mentoring that can take place in that, but the reality is they would keep that same group of students all the way through their 4-year journey.
So, I don't know, a lot of you guys know I went to ICE probably invented the concept similar to what you're talking about 40-some years ago, the teacher advisor contact. I think it works very well. Having someone that students, they have to have an option of transferring, because sometimes you just don't have that personality issue, but having a continuous contact all 4 years is very valuable for not only the student, but their parents and everyone else. It's kind of like the one person that tethered to the school. You can't lose students as easily that are just kind of floating and everyone's assuming somebody else is kind of looking out for them. You know, guidance counselors just not the role that they play. But the other part you touched on was the makeup of those rooms. Having all 4 levels in there is important because you can mentor. You can see examples of what, not only sometimes good things, but they also can see bad things that they don't want to do. So that's my 2 cents worth. So as you're developing that in, you know, look at that and maybe you'll come back with different ideas, but that's been my experience with it.
Appreciate that. Todd, who are some of the other schools that are employing something like this now?
Elmbrook, Hamilton, Kettle Moraine, Arrowhead, Waukesha's, Mukwonago. It's a short list of who's not Oconomowoc. The vast majority in our immediate area have something along these lines.
And by ending the day just a little bit later, would it have any impact on extracurriculars?
Nope. End days or end times vary kind of from district to district as it is, and would still be below what some of the later ones are. And again, in all honesty, usually, and as a coach back in my day, one of the greatest challenges we had is when we left early and the student missed a test or an assessment and they didn't have a study hall in their day, they struggled to find time to build it in. And having an advisement period built in would actually create that space in place for that.
My first blush is, and just my last comment is, I would encourage you to go forward with this. I know what kids are doing now to think ahead and work a study hall into their schedule. What they're doing over summer is just, they're doing some things over summer which they probably shouldn't be doing because they want to get a study hall next year.
Really hard.
How would busing work? If you had time on to all the levels, now, right now we're, adding on to the high school is not a big deal, it's the end of the day. If you add it on to the elementary school, now that pushes back.
No, the high school's first.
Well, I mean, actually, I'm sorry, the other way around. But at the end of the day, high school leaves first and then the buses. So if you're adding time on to that, it kind of screws up our system as a whole now.
Not if you're adding on all 3.
Well, yeah, but then you're really pushing back start times on some of them. And is that your thought process or what?
Pushing back.
Yeah, we talked about if one building makes a move for one level, probably all 3 need to make changes. We wouldn't anticipate extending the elementary day because they already go pretty late, but maybe adding on to the beginning of the day instead. And we figured, just depending on start and end and how many minutes we're adding, it probably would be cost neutral with busing as long as we're not adding any routes.
I've got a couple of observations. Thank you for continually trying to improve. When you talk about the elementary school and the need to, it may extend their time to eat, how does that fit in? Because that's data that was based on prior to our combining of the elementary schools and place an infrastructure in these schools that serves and right. So I'm curious how you would interpolate that, because I mean, would you see it still as an issue with Bay Lane and Mill Valley completely renovated, that we'd still have problems?
Yeah, that's really hard. That's a great, first of all, great question. So it's really qualitative data based upon conversations that we've had here at the board level. Hard to tell because we don't have schedules that are developed yet at our elementary schools. So you really can't answer that. We're going to do everything we can to build a schedule where it does allow greater flexibility and time for kids to be able to eat, being mindful also of the academics and the number of minutes that we need to have for each of those classes.
Because that was one of the efforts that we set the referendum forth, was to increase infrastructure and lay in a foundation where we could string people through. We have facilities available, so I just want to make sure that we're, if there's data to support that, is all. And then Dean's question on who, when we compare ourselves to, like you're saying, Waukesha County, are we comparing ourselves to just schools in Waukesha County, or are we comparing ourselves to schools who are significantly exceeding? Because I'm just curious, because that would seem to be a question that would probably surface, where down the road because,
So you're saying like schools not only outside of Waukesha County?
well, I guess,
or-
I'm not even, and I don't wanna dampen, that doesn't say a school who's not significantly exceeding wouldn't have a good, structure of something you may like, right? But generally, I think if you're looking at the data, if we're comparing ourselves and we're citing other schools in Waukesha County, I think I'm looking to find out, well, we're a school district that significantly exceeds, we advertise as that. Are we looking at other school districts that are doing the same thing rather than just the general area? And I'm sure you are, but I just, you know, as you put together the report, you know, you may wanna just highlight
Expand out a
that.
little
Yeah,
bit more.
just highlight that we're doing that, is one thing. And my last comment, and I don't, you know, I think we're all aware of the challenge the middle school schedules are, and having some of the challenges that the board's had over the past 5-6 years. I'd be very interested to know if there's a middle school schedule change again. You know, I'd be curious to know what led to it now. And is doing this undoing something that we wanted to do?
To make sure that.
Yeah, it is all, and you probably already have all this, but it's something I'd probably want to at least see when this final thing is done, but those are just some observations I have.
And knowing that this type of work was being sort of explored, that's very deliberate on the committee's efforts this year to say this is phase one of the middle school schedule, because we knew that there could potentially be some.
Yeah, and I've no, as Dean said too, I've no objection on what you're doing. I think you're heading down the right path, and I have no objection to extending the school day. At all, you know, so.
I think that, and they're great points too, and that's where one of the things I love about being a part of this district is they support professional networking. As principal at Wanakee, Pewaukee, Middleton, Cross Plains, definitely have our sights set on the best in our state. And I try to also look at schools that have similar demographics and similar strengths and maybe some similar challenges within their community, so we understand how we're working with similar things. A system that might work for Waukesha South probably isn't the right fit for us, but there are so many networking opportunities out there, we're definitely looking at those.
Thank you.
I appreciate that, because the part you said as far as looking at similar demographics and communities makes a world of difference. I mean, you can't just put the blinders on and say, well, it works great there, well, we're not that, you know.
We try to identify what is our root cause and what are the problems, what are the challenges we're facing, and those are the first questions that I ask other districts who have initiated this a little bit before, and what challenges did they face, where do they see the benefit to their students, and what challenges are they overcoming.
So Todd, let me ask you about the lunch. What's the first earliest start lunchtime right now?
11 o'clock.
11 o'clock, and so we're even thinking of putting it back another possibly 20 minutes earlier.
Yep.
One of the things my daughter said, when they went through, was one of them had an early lunch, just 11 o'clock was too early. As you're looking at these, these others that have a similar type, what do they do for lunch periods? And maybe push it back at least to 11 if we can, or maybe period 4 before lunch and then start 5, 6 as lunch. I don't know. I don't have the solution, but it just seems a bit early for lunch, even though we're starting at 7:25 in the morning. So
That is a challenge that they've all expressed the same, in any district that's similar to our size in the food service, and most of them have 3 lunches. And the challenge is your early one is early and your late one is late. So it's that balance of, there isn't an ideal scenario in that.
I know it's tough.
And it works for some kids. I mean, when David was here, he used to take a sandwich because he couldn't wait until lunch to get some take a peanut butter sandwich every day and eat it during class, because he could never make it until whatever lunch period was. But
It was a question I did ask the districts that I've talked to, and our students just kind of go and said exactly that. There's some students who love the early lunch, there's some students who love the late lunch, there's some students who don't like, and how we plan accordingly. And one of the things with the Warriors Way Cafe, we do have time built in for students to actually, they can get snacks and healthy snacks throughout the day.
So, did you say you're trying to accommodate the kids who like the early lunch, or is that something we can't even consider? Okay. I thought that's what you were implying.
No, they just said it is, you're chasing your tail on that. Like, there is no solution that works for all kids, and it's hard to measure. Some students have a preference for 10:30, and like, this is great, I was up at 6 o'clock. I've already been doing homework before school started, by the time 10:30 hits, I'm starving. And there's other students who wake up at about 7 o'clock and scamper through the door, just not even showering or anything like that. And they run in and they are like, you know what, I can wait till 12:40 or 12:30 to eat lunch, so. But there are structures built into the day where they can accommodate for that. And students bring snacks. Our athletes are really pretty good about nutrition and understanding how important it is to get protein every 3 hours and things like that.
Thank you.
If I'm able to make a comment here, I think this could provide us a really unique opportunity, especially with student council and what we're looking to do to engage with our students and see what they really think about this whole situation, if we'd be able to, and just kind of get their opinions. I think the real problem we might run into here is we make a decision up here and they have no idea and they're just shocked by this decision because this changes their whole school day, right? So if they're unaware of a change that's made, they could be very upset about this. So if they feel like they have an opinion as changes start to occur, they might be much more receptive and we might get much better feedback beforehand and then during.
Good point.
That is a comment that it took me years and years and years to figure out. Even if you don't listen to them, if you give them the voice, they feel much better about the decision.
Listening to them is important too, though.
And you're talking about.
Your age is ahead of your time.
And you're talking
Good
about
job,
doing this for
young
the
man.
2019-2020 school year?
Correct.
So you have a little more than a year,
Yeah, we
year
have
to
time
kind of
yet.
get this planned out, but we still need to get even the parents involved, so, which we normally do. So I think we got plenty of time to do that.
Run out the door? Not running. Be a slow walk. No, no.
What are you looking for us tonight? Just what you got, or do you need anything
Just
else?
questions. Again, we're really compiling the list. We've brought it to our department chairs multiple times, like I said, I bounced it back past our principals cabinet, just one student group, our department leaders and I and the goal team, and we're framing a list of essential questions that we want to make sure when we take site visits, that we get the right questions answered, and we continue to make sure we're engaging multiple stakeholders in the journey.
I like the idea. I have no issue with adding more time onto the school day. So,
The only thing I guess I would add is when the middle school went through the many changes it did, at times it did help to see some representative student schedules representing different particular students, right? So you're talking about students who might need intervention, students who are higher achievers, and students who are, kind of in the middle and just fine. So presuming you get to that point, is run some schedules to present to the board to say, okay, here's what it can look like for student A, B, and C. It really does help to visualize it with, what those actual classes might look like. Sure.
and I'm assuming with their coaching background, you're going to take into consideration also the, athletes that have to leave early at certain times of the year that, you don't always, if it gets too far out there, they're missing one class, which isn't good either. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good work.
Thanks. Appreciate it. Okay, next report, teaching and learning, annual report to the board.
Does anybody need to stand up and stretch before we? You good?
I don't know, but these two are thinking, they haven't even gotten to the regular meeting yet, what did I sign up for?
Yeah.
All right.
I need the mouse from Jeff.
Are you, we have the moving us up there?
Yeah.
All right. I'm gonna stand up.
Yeah.
It's a long way. Okay, so I'm going to jump right in and get us started. As you know, we have come and spoken with you a couple times throughout the year to talk about really just the strategic plan, our goals as a department, go over some data that was lagging and some that is leading, to share with you some of the things that we've been working on. And tonight is really about looking at the results, both lagging and leading, and then talking about the decisions we've made and some of the work we've done around that over the years. So as you know, we have our strategic plan. That's the image there on the left-hand side. And as a part of that strategic plan, we are very focused on our literacy results, particularly the reading performance for our students. Our goal is to be at or above median in Waukesha County, and as you all know, Waukesha County is a very academically competitive county. So And our ultimate goal is to achieve being within the top 3 in Waukesha County. So this is a slide that you ladies saw earlier this evening, really representing our district growth trend. And as you can see over the last 5 years, the district has really accomplished quite a bit of growth. We started with exceeding expectations and have achieved significantly exceeding expectations with an overall score of 87.1. Well, there's continued opportunity for growth there. We're very proud of the results that we have achieved. It's a little bit difficult to see on this slide. This is a slide representing our forward results for English language arts for students without disabilities. And as you can see, our goal, ultimate goal, was to be top 3 in Waukesha County. Again, academically competitive county. We are actually in the top 3 there. You'll see Muskego, Norway is number 3. This is the slide representing our students with disabilities on the English language arts examination for forward. And again, you'll note that we are in the top 3. So these are our ACT scores. You'll see that we are above the state on writing, reading, as well as the composite score. We're commensurate with the county for writing results. Reading, we're just a little bit below, and then also with the composite. So one of the things that we note as a school district is, well, we have achieved and accomplished our goals of being above median and then being in the top 3, and that's really exciting. We like to celebrate for about 5 seconds, yay, and then we say, okay, it's time to get back to work. And so we took a look at this and we said, you know what, there's opportunity for continued growth here. There's opportunity for us to continue to develop ourselves. Our vision is, or our mission is, every student learning, growing, succeeding. Yes. So that being said, you can see, I will just turn it right over to Mrs. Marish, and she can talk with you about our continuous improvement culture.
Okay, so you heard Todd reference continuous improvement. You hear it across all of our departments. This specific chart you've seen multiple times over the course of years, really. This past year and a half, almost 2 years now, the literacy and social studies teams were in the plan phase of their review process. And so about every 7 years is when we're taking a look at our curricular areas, as you know, and that really just allows us to stay on the cutting edge of what is current effective practice along with what is it that our students need. And this year in particular, the data that Kari was referencing really provides one foundational look at our, you know what,
there.
It provides a foundational look as to how our students are performing, but then from there what we do is we take our curriculum teams, which is really a large group of teachers, administrators, coaches, through that process. And so we did analyze that data, but then conducted research on effective practices, engaged in staff professional learning with AVID. You heard us talk about that in reference to our kickoff this year with the Summer Institute Learning for All, and personalized learning to really discern what are those most effective common practices. And through that work, we identified the 6 high leverage practices and a 3-year professional development plan. But specifically, this slide references an opportunity for improvement for our students. And the area that we wanted to help our students grow was in literacy across all content areas, and research would suggest that engaging in argumentation across positive, constructive argumentation across the day in all content areas is one way of really increasing the rigor for our students. Because when you think about what it takes to construct a really solid argument, they need to have these skills. And those are also skills that will prepare them for life well beyond us in the workplace, whatever career path they might choose. So determining the meaning of what they are reading so that they are able to analyze, and then from that being able to look at multiple perspectives from different authors, to be able to look at multiple sources and integrate that information so ultimately they can form their own opinion and create their argument, and have the ability to go back and trace and evaluate their thinking and rationale to support their argument. So that became a focus of our work. So in order to help our students with that skill and understanding, we looked at what would be effective instructional practices for our teachers. And these are the 6 high leverage practices. Just want to revisit those. And what you see on the right-hand side are the effect sizes of those practices on student learning. And so we engaged in some study around the work of John Hattie, which reflects a meta-analysis around the impact that practices have on student learning and student results. And so anything above a 0.4 would be a significant impact on student learning, and reflect at least 1 year's worth of growth impact. So these were strategies that we zeroed in on, and we included in there some that link directly to personalized learning, as that is part of our core foundation of what we want to offer our students.
Thank you, Doug. So personalized learning isn't a new topic, right? We've talked about it, and actually introducing our Compass recipient, we have a person who's talking about one of our very first pioneers in the district to do that. How exciting that we see this much change over time. The graph simply illustrates the growth, the amount of participation we have, which is very heavy at elementary and some at secondary, but it shows that we have over 70 people participating in this process voluntarily. What a wonderful opportunity to once again showcase how people are willing to push themselves to do what's best for kids. On the left side, we have our constellations, and the constellations are important because those are kind of the pieces that continue to support the learning. What are the priorities that we recognize in this district? I won't read them to you, you can do that on your own. But once again, that growth is there, and we are probably going to see similar growth again going into next year. And once again, there is a process where this continues to get supported by a personalized learning network, and more importantly, opportunities for more learning with the Institute. The Institute at CESA 1 is now a national brand. They support entities across the country, and we're just very fortunate to have them here close by. That works really well for us. And we want to make that progression from teacher-centered on one side, learner-centered in the middle, and learner-driven on the far right side. That's what personalized learning really does in our system. Moving on to the next slide. Theory of action. I know you all can read, but for the sake of autopilot, I'm going to read for you. If we focus on professional learning over 3 years on specific research-based K-12 strategies to develop student agency and literacy skills, aligned with statistically significant educator effectiveness components, then student outcomes will increase. Why is this important? Well, we needed something to really hang our hat on that could be aligned K-12 for common language. These needs were identified through our PDSA process. We have a connection of what kids need to be able to do. Contributes to the literacy and, of course, personalized learning. Also, our EE data supported this need. And then last but not least, Hanover, who we have done multiple research with in the district, but also followed them for other research that they've done, has been able to confirm our internal analysis. So again, this is not a new concept or a new topic, but it certainly is worth reviewing. Moving on to the next slide. The 6 high leverage practices that Dawn talked about before, again, you see them there. Why was it important? Well, we have a 3-year commitment to this, right? So we really had to make sure that if we were headed in this right direction or in this direction, we had to make it right. And we couldn't just follow any direction without fully studying the impact or the outcomes. This is part of a much larger process, which is our aligning practices to achieve proficiency. This is on our first slide. Why is it showcased again? Because here we have all these processes down in the root system that are happening, and they really have a large impact on our system, but wait a minute, they can't just keep existing by themselves. How do they come together so well? And this is part of our root system leading into our K-12 focus. We have our, what's the person's name again in red? PAT, with our high leverage practices. Also then at the top, we have our college, career, and community. So again, I know this is nothing new, but it is important to review. And then on the far right, our learning, growing, and succeeding, a very core constituency of the district. My last slide that I'm going to be talking about is about the monitoring. And why is this, again, so important of a piece? We don't just do this and then not have metrics to monitor even some of the early success, and then also what is hopefully future success. And in this case, we have analyzation of student data that we're looking at STAR results, and we're already seeing some student proficiencies on the rise. We also have classroom visits, which is again these walkthroughs that we're talking about. We started with walkthroughs to get our baseline data, and we're going to continue to have walkthroughs to determine our growth. We also have so this is again 1-year implementation of our high leverage practices, and what we've discovered is a high quality implementation already of the high leverage practices. So we're seeing fidelity in the implementation early on. We know there's opportunity for growth going forward. I'm going to switch it over to, I believe, Christy and Dawn for the next slide. Christy, your microphone. Don't let me control it. By the way, we couldn't adapt this soon enough for Google Expeditions, so we tried.
Tonight, we're going to be bringing forward recommendations in the area of literacy and social studies. I won't go into detail on these slides at this point in time because we will provide further detail later. But besides all classrooms outside of literacy and social studies implementing the 6 high leverage practices, these 2 curricular areas are also continuing that work, as well as other work related to their own content area. Again, we'll get into that a little bit later tonight. So I'm going to skip forward 2 slides. And I'll come back to our college, career, and community updates. And as we look at our vision of a graduate and some next steps in the area of continuous improvement, I have the privilege to share with you some of our advanced placement data. This chart here represents the number of tests taken and the number of tests passed. And you can see that over the past 5 years, we've increased the number of tests taken dramatically. We're also seeing the number of tests passed increase. Sometimes when you increase the number of tests passing, you might see a decline of tests passed, but we're actually seeing an incline on both. About 70% of our students take an AP class by the time they graduate high school, and that's something that we're proud of, but we are also interested in increasing, as we know that taking an advanced placement or a college level course exposes students to rigorous curriculum that prepares them for college. Also, along the lines of college level coursework, our CAP enrollment is up for next year. Next year we're going to be adding Spanish 6 and CAP Business in addition to what was offered this year, and the number of requests has increased by nearly 100 students. If we translate that into the number of credits that those classes are worth, we're looking at nearly $500,000 in tuition that would have been paid to a state university, or $2 million if those same classes were taken at Marquette. So we're really proud that our students have the opportunity to take college level courses with our teachers on our campus, and that they are graduating high school with college level credits on a transcript. And lastly, I wanted to talk to you around the topic of CNA, or just nursing or healthcare in general. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, there's about 525,000 RNs who are going to be leaving the profession between 2012 and 2020. And that is due to baby boomers coming to the age of retirement. And because of the number of people who will be out of the workforce and in retirement, that particular profession is going to expand to a need of from 2.71 million to 3.24 million, which is a 19% increase in that particular field. In the state of Wisconsin, that's a national trend, and in the state of Wisconsin, the number is expected to be about a 24% increase. So in short, our future needs in healthcare will exceed our current or projected number in the field. And again, the reasons for this is the aging workforce who are expecting to retire, which will create openings, as well as people living longer and requiring more healthcare needs in retirement. So we look at the partnership we have with WCTC, and where we offer the CNA program for students who are interested in going into healthcare. And we have anywhere between 4 students and 15 students annually who participate in that program. Obviously, those numbers are low, but it's probably because people have to leave campus in order to get to Waukesha in order to take the classes. So sometimes people will do it in the evening hours or on weekends or in the summer. But it also limits students who are really active. So if you're in a sport or an activity, it's really hard to fit that in on top of the 40-plus hours that you need for a practicum experience. So we've recently learned that the Wisconsin Department of Workforce Development is currently accepting proposals to establish partnerships between private organizations and middle and high schools. This particular project is worth $1.5 million for the state of Wisconsin. We're not sure what that's going to look like from a K-12 perspective, but we intend on fully taking advantage of any opportunities that we have once we understand the parameters. So we'll be looking at that. We're expecting more information to come out in June regarding what that partnership will be and how that will impact our district and others.
So this next slide addresses the college and career ready IEP plans that the Department of Public Instruction has laid out for districts. We have fully adopted the college and career ready approach to writing IEPs. On the left-hand side, you're going to see the 5 beliefs that are foundational to this IEP writing process, and then the 5-step process that teams engage in. What I want to highlight tonight, though, is really about the fact that as a district, we are absolutely committed to ensuring every child is prepared and is college and career ready. And should they select to not go to a post-secondary school, that is a choice that a student has the right to make. But we want them to know that if at any point they would like to go on to a post-secondary educational experience, that is available to them. And we as a system have prepared them for that. And that means every single student in our system. That being said, one of the major areas of focus that we have had in the special education department is around being very intentional in writing goals that are aligned with the Common Core standards at that grade level. So not only are we considering how do we level the playing field for our students with IEPs in the classroom so that they can access the curriculum and achieve towards those Common Core standards at their grade level, but what kind of specially designed instruction are we providing to students to help prepare them and to develop strategies that allow them to tackle the content at their grade level. So that's an area of focus and importance for us, but also aligned with the college and career preparedness that we are really committed to is addressing those post-secondary transition plans and thinking about ways that we can authentically and meaningfully allow kids to prepare themselves not only for post-secondary experiences in terms of an educational experience, but also what are some options for them to prepare them for careers that will provide them with lucrative opportunities to be independent and self-sustaining. So, and those are done in partnership with families. So it is a shared responsibility. This is what the district is going to do to support students for life after high school, and here's how the family can support too. And then bringing in some outside agencies. Does anybody have any questions about anything shared tonight? Yes.
Going back to the CNA education, every year we see a number of students go to the WCTC, and we talked about it a couple months ago about possibly looking at doing it in-house here. And maybe if we actually offered it, that might increase the number of students interested. But you're talking about partnering with one of the healthcare providers locally to help them get through that program?
The state of Wisconsin is currently accepting proposals from healthcare providers
So nothing to do with schools?
to partner with K-12 schools
Okay.
in order to bring that training in-house. We're not sure, again, what that's going to look like, but we have a number of ideas. One of the barriers that we've had and continue to have as we look at how to bring that program in-house is if we hire an instructor from WCTC, it costs anywhere from $10,000 to $18,000 per semester, and that's on top of the tuition that we would pay for students, which far exceeds the $600 per student that we're paying to have them go there. In addition, we would have to outfit a lab, which would require us to take about the space of 2 classrooms, take down a wall and create a lab space. There's a number of requirements. Tracy can probably speak to them in regards to what type of equipment you need to have. The state regulates that. It has nothing to do with education or what we have access to. So potentially we could look at getting donations from local establishments or some of the hospitals. But we want to wait and see what the proposals at the state level are going to look like and how we can fully take advantage of that 1.5
We
million.
can initiate this ourselves.
To be continued.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're still, okay,
Yeah.
totally in the dark.
We know there's money there, and we know that they're accepting proposals. And they're going to be making an announcement around June 1st, I believe.
Thank you.
I've got a question, Christie, on the AP. So on that slide that shows the number of AP tests and number of tests passed. So what does that tell you? Just got a feeling, because I'm thinking, so I watched my son take a few AP classes, and he's exposed to different forms like DBQs, or I suppose elements that you probably would not be exposed to learning in a normal class, right? That's not AP. However, I'm not so sure I guess by doing that he learns different ways, right, to approach problem solving and stuff. But what does this actually tell you, though? If almost half pass the AP exam and then, well, you've got 874, so half of who take it pass. Is that a big deal? Is it enough that they take the AP class?
So, yeah, I'll answer that. A number of years ago, we started to look at how we were gatekeeping students from participating in AP courses. So as an example, in order to take a class like AP American History, you had to be a junior, you had to have had an A or a B in any one of your social studies classes. We had all of these parameters on what constitutes criteria in order for eligibility. We started to pull those barriers down because what the research says is that students who participate in AP coursework, whether or not they pass that test, they're better off than a student who doesn't ever take the rigorous coursework. And I can speak from my own personal experience, and maybe you have this with your own child, that taking the AP test that in and of itself is another experience, similar to the ACT test where you're in a timed environment, and students who aren't good test takers, immediately struggle in that environment. But even that experience is valuable for students who are going to be going off to college. So there's a number of research articles out there that would support that any AP is better than no AP, regardless of what your test score is. I also attribute our growth to, we have a really successful AP Human Geography program. So that class was brought in about 3 years ago, and the enrollment has tripled. You're going to see on the textbook request for tonight that we're looking to purchase more AP Human Geography textbooks at a tune of around $11,000. We purchased $10,000 worth last year, and we purchased $8,000 the year before. That class in and of itself is serving almost 200 students, and it's open for freshmen to take. It's an accepted freshman curriculum across the nation. So I think that's another area that we're seeing a spike because we are opening up our classes to more students. And not all of our students take the exam either. So even though 473 are passing, not all of them have taken the test.
So, thank you. And then my last comment, so then, I guess, and I'm just gonna ask this. I'm not really even sure if there is an answer, but so it's gonna be a little long here, but, so looking at the draft, and I assume it's probably for this way, I'm just gonna assume in just about any school, I would assume that would be common, except highest. But, so going forward, so what would you determine, I guess, would be the reason people aren't passing the test? Is it just because the amount of work is too great, or is it, and I'm leading here, but, or is it that the study skills aren't there? And if it is the study skills, would everyone having a class like Avid be something that we should be looking at and incorporating into possibly what we heard before about these advising periods, and start looking at that as a, hitting every student at that. So that's my kind of question and observation.
Yeah. I'm going to butcher the statistics here, but I want to say that a class like AP Chem or AP Physics, the national pass rate is like 30 or 40%, and we're seeing about 60%. So we're seeing better results than other school districts across the nation. And again, those numbers are close but fictitious. The 6 high leverage practices that we're focusing on K-12 was actually a strategic move to help prepare all students for rigorous coursework. And those are AVID strategies that our AVID students in the AVID elective learn and train to become really good at. So by taking a K-12 initiative with the 6 high leverage practices, we're grooming students to be able to tackle rigorous coursework and be able to dissect and understand and compare and contrast and do all of those things. But certainly for the students who need extra assistance in that area, or it might not become automatic, a class like AVID is fantastic. I don't want to speak for Ms. Bowden, but I think that one of the intentions with the advisory period is to look at AVID and the impact AVID has on students, and then to allow them to reach more students through that advisory period. Would you say that's?
Yeah, so I'm totally on the spot right now, but.
You want to come up to the microphone?
No,
Say your name,
But Brookfield, for example, has a study skills class and AVID. So they have kind of a twofold system. Students who want to take the elective for a specific curriculum, specific to the AVID system, take AVID, and then they, like I said, they have this other class that models similar to AVID, but not with the same intensity or rigor of the elective.
And I'm not sure where, like, what is, if AVID needs to be mandatory. I've seen a lot of, over the past 4 years, 5 years, effort in the middle schools to just, I'm seeing my daughter even just go through a very regimented way of learning from 6th grade up, where they document, and they do this, which is similar to what you would learn in an AVID, but they're learning it early on. So I'm not so sure. I'll see next year if that carries on. And so maybe it's not. Maybe that's enough, right? And then AVID is for those who just want some more reinforcement or some more time. But I think the AP classes do benefit. I'm just curious with all this possible, looking at the schedules, if there's something, not only career-wise that can be presented, but ways to organize and study and, constantly, because.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Thank you.
Real quick question, since we're on 6 high level practices, note-taking, is that emphasized to do it by hand?
Hand or electronically, but it's really around interacting with your notes. And so a lot of our teachers are using the Cornell notes, where they have their essential question, and then they're documenting key points. But the point is to come back to the notes over and over again. There's something that's called the curve of forgetfulness. And so if you interact with the material just one time, the likelihood that you're going to remember it 6 weeks later. If you interact with it 2 times, the likelihood you're going to remember it. And the more you interact with something, the more likely it becomes concrete and that you're able to remember it. So the goal is not necessarily to choose any particular format, whether it's computer or hand, but that you're interacting with the notes, you're doing something with them, and that they're purposeful.
I had one last thing. I just wanted to make sure this was not a typo. So on your advanced placement cap and cap request, is that 1,560?
Requests.
From 985 a year ago, so it's, wow, okay.
Oh, the 985 is, if we took all of the classes that kids are currently in for CAP, that's how many credits it's worth. So some of our credits, some of the CAP classes are worth 3 credits, and some are worth 10. So CAP Chemistry is a 10 credit class. So if we look at all of the classes that they're currently enrolled in and the number of credits those are equal to, it's equal to 985 credits. And next year, again, looking at the same classes and their credit weight, it's 15, 16.
That's significant, even with the 4 or 5 for chemistry, which is not the overall girth of it, so that's an incredible amount for us to offer. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? We are quickly coming to the end. Superintendent's report. Hold on. Food service update. Julie.
So one of the things that we wanted to bring forward, we've been considering different options for how we can continue to make our food service program run faster, get kids to the line faster. One of our biggest issues is that we're struggling with students actually carrying IDs. So we were going to try 2 different pilots. We found an app at the high school level, because the students at the high school can actually carry their phones, where our school picture company can actually upload IDs to this app. We can sign up for it. It's free to the district. Students can go online, download the app, and they'll always have their ID on their phone. Right now they're taking pictures of it, and it's not necessarily working very well because it's fuzzy and the scanner doesn't always read it. So that was one option that we have. The second one at the middle school level, because students don't carry their phones, and we think it'll be more of an issue for them to carry them at lunch and then be able to put them away and like physically get them to put them away, is the idea of fingerprint scanners. This is an option that we can have for parents. Parents can opt out of this. It's not required. We will always still have the ID, but there will be, I guess, a greater need for our students if they're not going to choose this option to utilize their ID. So we were just getting, I know I had talked to Rick a little bit about the concept, but wanted to get the board's opinion on it. If it's something that seems to be like a pilot that we can choose, we would like to try to pilot it for the last month of school, so the month of May. We would send information, a letter out to parents, not the letter that's on the website because it's terrible. We would send a letter out to parents. We would also be sending out a survey where they would actually be opting in or out, so we would have record of one or the other by the end of April, and then we would like to pilot starting May 1st. So just opening it up to your thoughts.
How about we pilot a program where if they don't have their ID, they don't get lunch?
Yeah, easier said than done.
I don't understand, how hard is it to carry that ID?
I know.
You probably find it's probably the same ones too, day after day, same group.
Well, it's probably, at our middle schools, it's probably 75% of the kids don't have them. So it takes a very long time, yeah. You would be in that group.
Any other thoughts, comments, any objections?
Little pilot, see how it goes, come back. All right.
Yep, and again, people can opt out.
Ship on a barcode 'em after that.
No shipping, we will not ship people.
Last service. Number?
My dog never complained.
Didn't Kevin Corners used to have like, you'd go in and, or you'd have a number?
Yeah, pin.
Yeah, pin, you just type in your pin and but I suppose they couldn't forget the pin, is that it? Okay. I'm just trying to understand, because I'm sure my son's been through everything and couldn't remember anything.
Yeah, the problem is, it's
So
just
they
when
always have their phone, so that's a really positive.
Oh, well, don't be so sure.
Right.
Something will happen, and that'll, painting or some video game will.
Glue all over my thumb.
Exactly.
also does help, we do have a lot of situations where students are sharing their IDs or, things like that. So
Yeah, that,
it keeps
Good luck with
things
that.
very personal. Yeah, we'll let you know how it
I'm
goes.
sure they'll be happy, deans exiting the board, so they'll be able to eat yet, so.
All right, that
All right,
concludes
thank
the
you.
superintendent's report. Thank you for your long attention.
Thank you. Moving on to other reports. President's report. Want to thank Dean and Lisa for their contribution to the district and our community. This board works so well not because we all think the same and have the same beliefs and everything. It works well because we all bring a different skill set to the board, and we listen to everyone and we're respectful of everyone's thoughts. And in the end, we kind of homogenize all those thoughts and get them together with a better answer. And you two, really fit that mold well. We're gonna miss Lisa's grammatical expertise.
I'll be watching and looking.
Watch the policies, let us know.
And we're also gonna miss Dean's ability to just call the elephant out in the room. I just did that shortly. It was funny because I actually had written this up before that. And I was like, oh, perfect. But good luck to both of you, and whatever you do to fill this time void you're gonna have in your life after this. You're welcome to come and fill the audience. I'm sure there'll be an empty seat out there that we can squeeze you into. But we're gonna miss you guys. At the same time, I welcome you two, Terry and Tracy. You're each gonna bring your own skill sets and beliefs, and it's gonna fit well into this board. And I look forward to having some fresh and different thoughts coming in, different passions coming. So that concludes my reports. Other board member reports.
I've got a couple things.
You get the floor when I give it to you, though. Because you guys gonna talk last?
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Brett.
Go ahead,
No, you go.
No.
No, they were ready to jump in, that's why I said that. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Well, first, I wanted to thank you, Dean and Lisa, for your years of service. I appreciate it. And also congratulations to Terry, Eric, and Tracy for being elected. I just wanted to mention a couple things. Kim Knudsen, for winning the Coles Fellowship. I read a number of those. They are really impressive, the ones that I saw. So to win something like that is really a big feather in her cap. A couple weekends ago, I was in San Antonio for the National School Boards Association annual convention. Attended a couple of things. The big thing was school safety, of course. But I attended a session called Great to Greater. And three things I took away from that. One is the lecturer said there's some evidence out there about high school start times being later, being much more effective. Of course, that's easier said than done because every high school around here has very similar start times. The other thing he said was don't be afraid to fail. And I was thinking of that when we were looking at the potential high school schedule. It's good to go out on a limb and then try something to see if it works. Otherwise, you're just going to be spinning your wheels. And the other thing he mentioned was when you take notes, do it by hand. That's why I asked that question, because you retain more when you do it by hand. Unless you're like me, which I'm having trouble reading my notes here. But and the last thing is we are having a new board member gathering for the Regional 11 of the Wisconsin Association of School Boards in this room on Wednesday. So I hope our new members can make it. And that's it.
Thank you. Any other
Make
board
sure you
members?
No, really, go first.
Just thank you to everybody for allowing me to do this for 10 years. Thank you to Eric and to Terry and Tracy for running, and I also want to thank Kurt Horrenda and Carla Klein for stepping out there and running, even though they didn't get on the board. That's something that we haven't had a whole lot of in recent years, is people actually stepping out there and running. So thank you to them for running. It's been fun. You'll hear me and see me. I'm not leaving town or anything. But this is a great experience, and I would encourage you guys to take part of that new board member meeting, because it's amazing when you look back, when I look back on my time here, that how incredibly naive I was about how our board runs and how this district runs 10 years ago. So it was a great learning experience. It's cool to go out on your own terms, and it's really been fun. I reminded myself that I really like to learn,
I never liked the testing part of it, but I always liked to learn. And so these last 10 years has just been a great learning experience. Made some friendships that are going to last for a long, long time. So it's been fun, and thank you. And look forward to this. This district has got the reason why we moved here 12 years ago or whatever it was in large part because of the schools. So not the only part, but in large part because of the schools. And it's neat to have play just a small part in the success that the schools are experiencing right now. So again, thank you, and I look forward to sitting back and watching the schools continue to succeed.
Thank you, Dean.
What was your most naive moment?
Where shall I begin?
Because I'm thinking of one. If yours is the same.
But yeah, I made some notes here.
I just want to thank all my board members. You guys have been great to work with. I've learned a ton. Kelly, you have an amazing school district with a great leadership team. It's been an interesting road to work through 3 different superintendents. Those were some very long nights of interviews, of getting the district to where it is, and it's been great. As Dean, I think Dean said, the learning has been phenomenal. School financing is a 3-legged stool. That just will never leave my head now. Right?
It's a little tippy now.
Right, but coming into this, not recognizing how they're funded, I mean, I came, pretty good with the educational standpoint, but not the rest of it. So thank you for putting me on different committees, Rick. I was very safe in education and went out on a limb in finance, and that was good for me to get out there. And I did.
The committee to you.
Well, and I also, even though she's not a part of the district anymore, need to thank Eileen Reeder, who was a principal at Muskego Elementary, because this all started as I was PTO president at Muskego L, with Eileen calling me in one day and saying, there's going to be some changes on the school board. I really think you should run. And I said, are you out of your mind? And she said, no, I really want you to think about it. So it was, that was a different time on the board. Things were maybe a little bit more tumultuous. So it was a great time to come on. And I feel like I'm leaving a TV show, where it's at the top of its ratings. Right? And maybe it has a long run, but I'm like, I'm getting out while it's on top. This is a great time to go. So no pressure. I'm sure it's only going to go farther ahead. But it is. The district's in fabulous shape. I wanted to see these referendums through. I'm so excited for the district. Abby was in kindergarten when I started. We finished together. So as she goes off to UW-Madison in the fall, Dan and I are going to take our bikes out and kayak, and we'll fill the time somehow. We don't need any more, don't tell Dan. So thank you. Thank you for all these years from the district, and congratulations and welcome more female representation on the school board. I couldn't be more excited, and I'm glad you're back. Really, I am. Yeah. So, thanks.
Could have made it 3.
We're going to miss you guys both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
Thanks.
All right. Moving on to resolution action items. 11A, employee handbook revisions.
Motion to approve revisions to the employee handbook as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
The handbook hasn't changed, but there is information that the board has requested, so Julie, walk us through that.
So the co-curricular information is attached. We do reference the revised compensation model that in the handbook, but we will not be placing the actual model itself. We've been taking salaries out and just kind of having the models separate held by HR. But wanted to just give you a little bit of background. Ryan McMillan started this process by meeting with all of the head coaches and has actually held that committee as he's gone through the process of developing this model. The old model itself was very old. It was from the collective bargaining agreement that was established years ago. All of the salaries for all of our coaches have been frozen since 2011. So none of our coaches or co-curricular contracts have been increased since that time. And they were currently listed as a percent of a previously negotiated amount. And what we really wanted to see was a more standardized, just standard stipend contract. Ryan also did a lot of research to look at median or our competing districts, look at where they were to make sure that we were competing at the same level for coaches by offering similar stipends and salaries. So the new model itself is competitive to Southeastern Wisconsin, specifically the athletic conference that we are a part of. The idea behind this is that the model will go into place, but no coach that's established at a rate that's different than what's being put in place will make less than they are. It'll only change when the contract turns over and the staff member changes. We have a couple booster paid positions, booster club paid positions, and through this model, we would like to take those back and have the district support those, because the more we get into boosters paying for various positions, we can run into Title IX compliance issues, because where you support funding for one, you have to be supporting funding for the girls and boys version of those sports. So we just have to be cautious with that, and by making some of these adjustments, we're pulling positions back into the district paid budget.
So, just
Yep.
pausing on that note, so, like, I'll use baseball for instance, we have a position there that's booster paid. So the district's just gonna take over the payment of it, or are we eliminating that position?
The district's taking over payments, so we're looking at ways to support keeping those positions, but having them be district paid.
Okay.
And then again, supporting the cost of this model within the current personnel budget. So I have attached not only the comps for you to see, but also the co-curricular compensation model. You'll see that the model itself is a very fun spreadsheet that I had a lot of fun analyzing, so I know you probably don't. But it does lay out a base pay for each of the sports, and each of the sports are leveled, and the ranking, and I included the factors that the committee used to actually rank a lot of these. And again, the coaches were part of this conversation. But looking at increasing and giving value to years of experience for the positions, and then again, so you have like your tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, and tier 5. And then within each of those tiers and each of those sports, the various either head or assistant, JV, 7th, 8th, 9th grade positions. And again, these were all based on the suggestion from the committee as far as what's median in these sports across our athletic conference.
So I'm looking at your sports, the ranking that you
Sure.
use, like length of season makes sense, preferred hours, that makes sense, blah, blah, blah. Nowhere near is market. Or am I missing it?
Where?
Market. You know, it might be a lot harder to find a coach for.
No, you're right.
Parcheesi. You know, I'll just use it as an
I get
example
it, yep.
versus, you know, everyone thinks you're a football coach.
Right.
So, you know, I know we fall into that with staffing for teachers. I mean,
It could be a consideration we could bring back,
I
for
think
sure.
it's something that should be considered if we run into it. I mean, if you're having no problems filling with this, that's fine, and I don't ever really want to hire a coach that's just doing it for the money anyway, but, you know, it's probably something that, if our matrix is that stiff that we wouldn't be able to in the future run into it, it should be one of the criteria at least.
To create the flexibility, okay. Okay.
Media responsibilities and coverage.
I can bring back details on those factors from Ryan if you would like me to. Not 100% sure about that one.
Yeah, some of them are kind of interesting. Any questions on this?
I'm looking at this spreadsheet. It's for 15-16 head coach pay.
Sure.
So I'm just looking at them all. And I see us and I see what the C8 average base is.
Which one do you want? Okay,
The smaller one.
okay.
It's microscopic, I apologize.
Grade 1, you told me. Okay, so I guess I have to go back and forth, is that correct? To the other,
To see whether or not it's median.
well, what are we going to? What are we, what are we setting our wages at?
So if
The
you go,
Median?
it's in the other model,
The
yeah.
model.
So if you go in this model, it's on the other sheet.
So what is it, median? Below median, above
So
median?
is your question where'd they come up with the number?
No, I wanna know, are we setting our pay at median compared to Waukesha County? What are we setting it at? Or,
The comparisons provided us with an opportunity to see where, and these are a couple years old, obviously, but, where those ranges are. Now, this doesn't tell the full story.
oh, I see, so we're going by years of experience.
Correct.
Yes.
Yes.
Which goes against everything else that we've done for pay in this district.
We absolutely, that's where I was getting at.
We've argued forever that.
We've argued for
Just because you
years
got
of
another year
experience.
doesn't mean.
You're being paid to do a job.
Right.
You're supposed to be the expert when we hire you. Not right? Argue the other side of the fence again.
Right, right.
Isn't that,
Yep.
yeah, that's what we went away with the teachers, right? Just because you got another year doesn't mean you get another
better.
step and another
Right.
lane and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. I don't necessarily like the model we came up with, I'll be honest. It stinks too much of a union contract, quite honestly, without being blunt on it, but, I'd rather if we had something in there of, the reviews and, something similar to what we do with teaching, they get, percentage of their athletes are on the honor roll or something, or, some kind of mix that's
So
more
within
applicable.
the teacher's compensation model, we still have a schedule,
You
right?
do.
I mean, we still have those, but you're right, the variables to move from one to the other, not including years of service, right? Including years of service, but also the professional development, leadership, and all of those types of things that needs to be accomplished. So, I mean, we could look at, like, criteria for moving through is not only years of service, like we're creating flexibility or could create flexibility for market. We could put factors in that are, in addition to this, you have to meet these other factors, which do include a performance review that's successful and those types of things. So we can definitely add factors in to help with that.
Survey results.
Mhm.
Yeah.
For sure.
How about if we just pay a median based on how they set up? I take it they're looking at, football, hockey, MSAD being the most amount of hours typically. They're getting, a higher level of hours involved in
Right.
those than golf, tennis, and water polo. So is the other, you talked a little bit about, paying or bringing on the booster paid. Is that just across the board? I mean,
No, we have two positions that are.
no, I understand,
oh,
but
Sorry.
do you decide, are you just bringing them on because the boosters thought it was a good idea to have these extra coaches? Or are you deciding if it's worthy of having?
They were underfunded. At least I can speak for the one, for baseball. I mean, you can't have two guys running three programs.
That was the other part of the review that Ryan went through, which was how many coaches per sport and, activity, all that kind of stuff. So through that process, he said, we need that coach because that's necessary for that program. So if we need that, we shouldn't be having,
Okay, so
a
there's only
booster.
two that you're bringing on that were booster funded.
Correct.
So what are you saying to the others that were booster funded that you're not gonna fund? They no longer can have those?
There are no others.
There are,
There's just the two booster funded,
for what?
swim and baseball,
No, it's not true.
that we know about.
That you know about.
That's part of the
Oh,
issue.
wait, you're saying they're a booster club, that are paying, just paying, just being. I wonder if Ryan knows that.
Yeah, the only ones
So I
that,
think that's gonna complicate that.
which may come up
Unless
after
you
the
just have,
fact.
so are you saying there's still there's still, it's okay to have a volunteer coach?
The volunteer coaches through the district, that come through the district, are not the issue. It's the ones that are paid outside of district funds. So what we've had set up with the boosters is we have an expectation that the funding comes first, and then the district takes that money in and then pays the employee directly.
Gotcha.
So if the booster clubs are paying the person directly, and we're not aware of it, we should be. And those agreements should be in place.
How does that work? So if you're, say we move to, create our own hockey team here in Muskego. So the district obviously must know that there's gotta be a coach. So the district will hire a coach, but yet you're saying the booster clubs themselves may fund something that the district's not aware of?
But they're funding volunteers.
We hire registered volunteers. They go through our process, our
Oh.
employee background check, and they're volunteers in our eyes, yes.
So the booster club may give them dollars
Like gift
for.
card, or is it like actual $1,000, or don't you know? Oh.
I'm just telling you that there's volunteers that are hired as volunteers that are as a gift.
They're compensated.
Are being compensated with a gift because they're doing that. And it's,
They're gifting that.
yeah.
Yeah,
And I suppose paid coaches also get gifts, I would think.
Well,
Special
parents,
collect,
yeah,
yeah,
I mean,
collect money
yeah,
and.
Players
Yeah.
collect and.
Yeah,
but the district's aware because they fill out the form.
that they're
The
volunteer.
right, the volunteer.
Yeah.
Correct.
Your form is just the compensation part is
Right.
handled.
Yeah, there's no non-background check.
Okay.
Correct.
Well, I should say there aren't, there's always a.
But there are some supports that teams do purchase out of their booster club, that we wouldn't call them a coach necessarily, but it might be a specialist. You know, like band will have an accompanist, or they'll have like, a special person who comes in to teach them a particular song. They pay that out of their boosters and their, different funding. And so that's not an employee. So I'm not sure, what else is out there, but we do get flexibility with that.
So is the district making a determination that there's not necessarily a need for an extra coach, but maybe that group of coaches for that sport have asked for a volunteer, and they've approved that volunteer, even though technically we don't feel there's a need for a fifth coach to coach what we set up as a 4-coach sport?
Yes.
But is that?
Well, a lot of times, a lot of these volunteers are Germans.
They just want to be
They just
there.
want to be, it's a recent graduate, say, college kid that wants to, be around and experience it, and he or she adds benefit to the team. Their as such, or, maybe their skill level just isn't quite there yet.
If that was the case, as Eric suggested, that we had a four coach sport, and then there were 2 additional volunteers being compensated by the booster club, is that an issue?
Well, it depends, it could run into Title IX, it sounds like.
Or, I guess that's the thing.
That's our
is that-
biggest concern, is that we have to ensure that we're in compliance with Title IX, and if we as a system know that people are being paid, and there's not an equal level of payment between girls track, boys track, or, girls basketball, boys basketball.
Well, is it
we
payment or
could-
position? Because otherwise, these tech schools, these schools, not so much in Wisconsin, but, you get a football coach making 6 figures that's paid by and large by a booster club. They get their district employee at the tune of maybe $10,000, and the rest of it all comes from a booster club. How do they get around it?
I don't know.
Don't ask, don't tell.
I don't know.
These are pretty public things. There must be some way that they're getting around it. Maybe, do they just look at the position staffing and not the dollar amount paid, or is it both?
It's both.
The handbook, right. We were just providing additional information regarding the co-curricular model because of what the board wanted as a follow-up to Ryan's
So
last week.
when does that model take effect?
Next year.
So could we say this needs work, and we can back and approve the handbook without it, or is it all?
No, the handbook is, the handbook just states that there's going to be a model.
And then it's continuing to keep the co-curricular portion as is in there this
Yeah.
year, and then we would be bringing back the same thing to you for the co-curriculars next year.
Because I myself, it sounds like at least Eric, is not comfortable with the model. I don't know, where are you three at?
I'd like to see it brought back, modified.
Got enough direction, or do you need more?
Yep.
Okay. Any other discussion on the handbook itself? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Moving on to 11B, board meeting calendar.
Motion to approve revised 2018-2019 board meeting calendar as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
Just looking to change April 1st to April 15th.
Because
We don't have the election yet. That's April 2nd, so we do need to have an April 15th meeting for the oath, just like today's meeting.
all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimously. Moving on to 11C, gifts, grants, and bequests.
Motion to accept with thanks gift from Muskego Norway District Activities, $3,000 from Muskego Stars Volleyball Club, and a gift to Muskego Lakes Middle School, $1,000 from Muskego Stars Volleyball Club.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Thank you.
Thank you.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Moving on to discussion items, 12A, 2018-19 budget. Anything new there?
No, we are actually going to be talking about that the first board meeting in May.
All right. Any questions on it since it's on the agenda right now? Hearing none, moving on to 12B, literacy and social studies recommendations.
Okay, so this is a bit of a continuation from what Christy referenced during our teaching and learning report. As a result of the work over the past 2 years, these are the recommendations that are coming forward. So at the elementary level, we are looking at adopting something called the Lucy Calkins Reading Units of Study Kits in grades K through 4. And just a little bit of background on that. Oh my goodness, 7 years ago, our current curriculum is what we would call homegrown. We wrote it ourselves with teacher teams. And then we went back 3-4 years ago and revised that work, mostly because it aligned with our philosophy and the work of Teachers College in New York. So that work supports the workshop framework, which is our current instructional framework in the classroom. These Lucy Calkins kits that are now available, that weren't available when we were writing our units, have just greater depth. They're supported in research, but they align to the current unit and philosophy of what we're currently using. So it would just be a really nice fit. And teachers had a chance to take a look at them. It will support our new teachers when they are first in their classrooms because there's greater detail within these curriculum resources. So as you see in the bullets here on the recommendation document, it aligns with our philosophy. It's going to facilitate equitable instruction and access to content for all students, and by that, we simply mean there's a common language, there's a common approach, and it will ensure greater consistency across buildings and classrooms, but still allow for some teacher selection and choice based on student needs. So it's not going to be so scripted that they're expected to step right through what's provided to them. again, it'll also provide a foundation for professional learning for the teams. Each unit is written in a book format, and so that will support their professional learning next year, as well as the high leverage practices. So some of the assessments that are built into this curriculum align with the whole idea of helping students read closely and then form opinions. So text-dependent analysis type of assessments are embedded right within the curriculum there. So with this, the teachers would then commit to there's 4 core units. They would teach those in full. And then there's some optional curriculum, which would allow for us to select materials that are the optional units based on our student needs at each grade. It would also allow, if we have some current units that are working really well, or that students need for additional support, teachers would still have access to those. So in some ways, it would be a combining of what we currently have, but still having one solid foundation with the 4 units in these kits. As we would embark on implementing these, we would all commit to common expectations. This really aligns K all the way up, but instruction that's aligned to the grade level standards, along with a grammar scope and sequence. One of the areas that we surfaced as needing or having an opportunity for improvement is our work in the area of grammar with our students. And so we have developed a scope and sequence at the elementary level that's very closely aligned with the Common Core standards, but then now we want to make some explicit connections to the units as to what will be taught where and when, so that we're ensuring every student is accessing those really foundational skills. And that was something that surfaced when we were working as a K-12 team together. Additionally, everybody would commit to the same common assessments, and there is a resource within there. If you remember our former reading continuum that we used to use, there's something within these kits called learning progressions, and it clearly outlines with greater detail than the standards how a student would develop towards meeting those standards. And so it's just a helpful tool for the teachers and instructing, but also for use with the students in setting goals. We will continue with our goal setting. And then the types and quantity of formal writing. So we want to ensure that students are having the opportunity to engage in all 3 different types of writing as expected through the standards. And then in addition to that, coming out in July, there is a resource that we will be looking to adopt in grades K through 2 to support phonics and phonemic awareness development. So just some added resources to support the development of some of the foundational skills associated with our standards. Once that happens, then we would look to do some curriculum work. Most likely the team will be coming together and discussing when this would work, but we would outline what are those common assessments, what are the grammar resources that they may need for their instruction, as well as planning for Summer Institute and professional learning, which would then continue next year. So that would just become the focus of their professional learning communities and their grade level planning time.
Question? I like that. I don't think I've ever heard that.
Thanks for the link to the DBQs and stuff. I like that.
Yes.
And at the middle level, as you recall last spring, one of the recommendations coming out of the Literacy Review Committee was to narrow down a resource that they then piloted this year. And so we selected a Pearson family of products. ReadyGen is the grade 5 resource, and My Perspectives grade 6 through 8. And so we spend a lot of time around developing units related to those particular resources. We surveyed students and parents as well as teachers, and 100% of the teachers recommended we move forward with My Perspectives. The total cost for a 7-year license is $175,000, and that comes to be about $15 per student per year. Every student receives a disposable workbook that is their workbook for the year. What's nice about that product is students, the texts that they're reading are within that workbook. They're annotating and closely reading, which is one of our high leverage practices, and interacting with their notes right in that workbook. And the level of questioning that requires students to go back and review their notes and rewrite and revise is all happening within that workbook. The teachers liked the resource because it was very well connected to our high leverage practices. It also creates consistency between buildings and across grade levels. They're recommending to adopt 4 units per grade level that would be common between buildings and by grade level. And within each grade level, they would adopt common expectations related to what standards would be taught and assessed, what mentor texts students would be reading, common assessments, that would be summative assessments, implementing a grammar, scope, and sequence that is carrying through from elementary all the way to high school, and then guaranteed types and quantities of formal writing, taking an essay through the writing process. There's some work related to creating the grammar, scope, and sequence and tying it to the units that they're going to be adopting. They're also going to be developing a pre and post test so they can monitor student growth in the area of grammar, and that will happen by grade level. And then we also recognize that we may need additional resources for teachers in the area of grammar. So we're looking to budget about $50 per teacher to purchase a grammar resource book that would ensure that teachers are using the same language in the area of grammar from grade level to grade level and building to building, which is one of the areas that the high school noted students were coming in understanding concepts in a different way using different language. Research skills will also be one of the focal areas within the 4 essays that will be written next year. They're also going to continue their implementation of the high leverage practices. Next year's Summer Institute will be focused on student voice and choice and goal setting in the area of literacy. And then they're going to continue the impromptu timed writing. That would be in addition to those formal pieces because it simulates the TDA, which students experience on the Wisconsin Forward, and also the type of writing that the ACT requires. Any questions regarding middle school? Okay, then for high school, I have Heidi Edwards here. She's from the high school English department. And one of the big changes that the high school is requesting is to adopt a course fee for the English classes. And that will help them enhance close reading, interacting with the text, and higher order thinking skills. And so Heidi, if you wanted to come up to the microphone and just talk about the work that you guys did this year and the proposal for that course fee.
So I'm going to try to be mindful of everyone's time tonight because I really could talk about this for like 10 hours, but we're not at that point. I have to be here at 7, tomorrow morning to teach kids. So we're already past my bedtime. So I just wanted to speak a little bit to the road that got me in front of you guys right now, which is the incredible leadership at the high school, in that we kind of had this idea as a junior team when we were discussing how we wanted to change learning for our kids. And we said we want to teach them, 4 incredible novels. We don't know how we're going to get them. And we were encouraged along the way by Christy, Christine, and Todd that, if we could make it happen, they would
they would get us the resources and help us to do that. So we were really brave this year, and we sent a letter home to all junior parents saying that we would hope they would support us in purchasing the 4 novels for their students. If that meant going to Half Price Books, if that meant using Amazon, whatever it might be. And the rationale we kind of gave them, and that I'm going to give you, it actually relates to taking notes directly on the text and how that increases learning, is we know from years and years of educational research that when students can put pen to paper, we can increase their learning exponentially, and that every piece we remove them from that direct contact, we also decrease that learning exponentially. And when students are reading permabound textbooks that are not theirs when that process is done, we know they aren't retaining as much of that information. They're not able to do as much analysis with it. They are not able to create some of the learning opportunities that they could if they had those books and were able to write in them. So we had over 85% of parents purchase all of the books for their students with almost no questions asked. We did have several students within our special ed population who we helped by supplying books for them. We had copies. And then we did have a few of our free and reduced lunch participants who we also provided books for them. And again, Todd, Christine, and Christy made sure we had at least a classroom set to fulfill those needs for students. But on the whole, almost all of our parents came through and did it for us. I think we've seen some incredible improvements on the ACT in the reading area. Our kids' stamina for reading has certainly grown as we've transitioned to this. And interestingly enough, and this is something I've seen for years with it, our kids take ownership of their books. When they own them, when they write in them, something about that text becomes theirs, and it certainly helps them remember it better. I have been at schools where we've employed the strategy of using Post-it notes instead, so school books that would be returned. But what I've overwhelmingly found is kids didn't want to return the books. They wanted to keep them because it's kind of a labor of love as you write in your book and you create these connections with it. And I also want to point out from a statistical perspective, writing notes and having to put a Post-it in is very different than writing notes on text. Certainly when it comes to learning. Writing in the text is what kids should be doing. So that being said, we are hoping, and we're hoping to go through most of our courses with this, to implement a course fee in order to have novels for our students that would travel with them. In doing that, we've tried to, instead of keeping what we're doing now, which is requesting that parents buy it, we're trying to solve a few issues that we have this year. One of the greatest issues is in discussing literature, page numbers are essential, and sometimes we have up to 6 versions of the book in our classrooms right now. Even though we gave students and parents ISBN numbers, maybe when they were at Half Price Books, that wasn't the version they had, or whatever it might be. So if you're running a Socratic seminar and you have 6 different versions of the book in the room, it really kind of impedes our process in that. So we're hoping to create, for discussion purposes, for writing purposes, a common version of that text. By us charging that course fee and being in control of what books we ordered, we could make sure all students have the same book in front of them. Another reason is when we ran the numbers, we found that using our tax exempt status as well as bulk shipping and bulk purchase, we could save parents upwards of 25% off the price of what the books were costing them themselves. And I'm not even including their shipping in that. That was me pricing it out at Amazon with the cheapest versions of the new books using, a Prime account with no charge for shipping. It's 25%. If we had shipping, it's upwards of over 30%. So we're looking to create some savings for parents on that end as well. The other concern would be, even though we asked parents to have those books purchased and ordered prior to the start of the school year, that was not always the case, and many times we'd be 3 days into the reading of a book and a kid's book would arrive. So by, again, us taking that role and making sure students have their books in their hands, in the classroom, all the same version, we're hoping to take the success we've had as a junior team this year and, number one, spread it out throughout the department and make it even more universal for our kids. So, do you guys have any questions for me? I know we have some prices listed in there.
How much money are you looking for?
I'm not looking for any money from you guys.
$25,000.
Heidi, here's a sample.
So for example, my juniors this year on average, we predicted to spend about $35 a household on books.
Yeah, I'm not interested in that. I wanna know.
I figured out the total.
I'm not sure, yeah.
And
Does
it's
anyone
about
know the number, or
$25,000 per year.
the actual number, what this would cost in a budget?
So this is,
So we're looking to implement a course fee that
I know what
parents,
you're looking for, the optics are horrible.
for parents to pay at
The optics are
registration.
horrible. We're charging for English class, I like what you're
Oh, sure.
talking about, I just don't like funding it this way. I'd rather raise parking $15, and trust me, these people know I don't raise parking for anything, to pay for it.
Sure.
I just don't wanna charge for a class, this type of class, so.
And I think we, in past districts I've been at, we've approached it as a consumable, so, but I see where your concern is coming from, and certainly I can understand that when we're looking at a required course, which English is, certainly for those 3 years, that is somewhat of a difficult.
It's just optics. I mean, obviously, this community can afford it. It's not an issue that way. It's, give me a number and let's find a different way of paying for it.
I mean, those are the, that's the amount, like $36 for all 4 of those books, right? I mean, I'm on Amazon.
You're paying for it now, though, right?
Right.
I mean, is this something our textbook budget can cover? Or, I don't know what the full cost is, that's what.
Right.
I'm not sure. I mean, I'm looking at Amazon, but maybe we get a little lower rate if we buy it for
The bulk shipping makes me laugh.
Well, and they don't charge us at all,
I-
they
I know,
they
I'm just
say you're
laughing
buying
because
so many, we're.
On the next agenda item where they wanna charge us $10,000 for shipping.
So just an example, the junior class, the bill would be about $14,000 if we have about 400 students in a class. So, but we would be looking at 9 through 12.
Right.
And AP.
I mean, everything you're arguing for why they should be a central source to purchase book, I get. I have no issue with that. I have an issue with the fee, and I'd rather find a different way that we can allocate some funds to our schools. I'm 107, but that's where I'm at.
I agree.
Yeah, I don't have an issue with the way you're doing it now, but I don't wanna charge a course fee. But I agree with you. I would find some other way to pay for it.
Yeah.
And certainly too, and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. If you guys have a better way too, that we could organize, we just kind of, as a team this summer, thought, how can we contact parents and do this? Maybe there are better ways, we could go back to make sure we got similar books or things of that nature or whatever.
Because parents are still gonna say, oh, I got that book from when I was in high school, it's sitting on the shelf, it's gonna, your thoughts and all your explanations are valid, and I buy them all, I just want to find a different way of funding it.
Okay.
If, the way you work it right now, if somebody just absolutely does not have the money to buy those books, what option do they have?
So one of the things we've looked into is, as a department, we have a certain budget, we have an amount of money, so we were certainly looking at our budget first to fulfill some of that need. So I'm trying to think.
This year, we had some classroom editions available, so students used those. We have classroom sets, so if kids want to use Post-it notes, we have that option. We also had a donation to an English teacher, quite a few years ago now, 3-4 years ago, that we had as a backup for any students who couldn't afford to buy books for one reason or another. So everybody was supplied a book this year if they wanted a book to annotate personally. They would have a copy regardless, but if they wanted, had that passion and wanted to be connected into the text, they certainly have that.
What would you do if you just had a hybrid where you had books there that they would take if they just, and use, the sticky note, and then, and then the same parents that buy the books now are probably the ones that are gonna continue to buy them, or is that impede the learning you're trying to do, or is
Can
that?
you explain to me a little bit more what you meant by that?
Well, some people, maybe you just have these books in class, and you buy them once, and they're there for, until, however long your textbook lasts, but I know there's some classes we just buy because the kids want the books. They're interesting, or they want to keep them. You're getting into like a college kind of thing where you go and buy your books, right? And parents are funding those, right, through, whatever, right, the college judges aren't. So here, I don't know, I was trying to work out a way to get you the books, but I'm not so sure I want to spend $50,000+ a year on books.
And certainly if we were looking at books that would stand the test of time, in the classroom that we could reuse, we wouldn't be looking at paperbacks, we wouldn't be looking at, $5 to $8 books. And
So you were basically wanting to organize, basically buying the books. What's kind of, it might be a little difficult, but what's stopping you from doing it now? Trying to get pre-orders to say we can order the book through Amazon, so by the time the class starts, your kid can have it.
Sure.
It's theirs to keep for this amount, otherwise we have other resources.
And that's one of the things I was suggesting, like if you have some ideas that are better to organize it, it's hard as classroom teachers, certainly I don't want to be collecting money, for purchase of books, but if we had some kind of, if we had a way for, I'd asked Emily Dittmar if there was a book buying service that would allow parents, in the same way that you buy like clothing with the school's logo on it, or other materials, like if there was a selling website where parents could go and buy them, to simplify some of it, but she said that doesn't exist at this point, so unless we would want to house it ourselves in some way.
Well, we do have the Warrior store in the.
Right,
Is there some way
right.
we can tie that in with that?
I don't
I'm
know.
just trying to think outside
Right,
the box.
right.
It's almost turning into the book, like university books.
We need to find a way of just funding this.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's raising another fee or anything else, we're not gonna come back with a fee for English, which is a required course. At the same time, we're putting turf on the football field, regardless of where that money came from. It's just not smart. So, I guess, you guys come up with, some other way, we're gonna support the funding, just gotta, tell us what you need to do, and not have a fee. So, we'll produce the money somehow. I don't care if it's increasing parking, something, or just coming out of a budget, but.
Okay, we're coming back with student fees actually in May. So we can look at that as an option from the standpoint of considering this as a really important aspect of our English program at the high school. And we'll just be open to
About
talking about
coming
that.
out of the textbook budget?
Pardon me?
About having it come out of the textbook?
Well, we can
Increasing
explore
that
that
to-
too. We can explore that too. For sure. I mean, that's what it would end up being.
Just have to get enough money in there. The only other thing I would say though, as you talk about, so you're talking about the AP English classes too? I mean, that is a little different, right? Right? If it's really just like a college course, I have 50 million English books I bought since I was an English major in college, right? So,
In
you know.
college, though, not high school.
No, but it's an AP course.
True,
So you're taking that college course in high school, it is English, you get your required books, and you've gotta buy them. And a lot of that work is done in the summer, so the kids have to get them ahead of time anyway to be prepared for that first day of class. So just that, there's that difference
You're right,
between the
there's
AP and the regular.
Absolutely,
Yep.
there is.
So just keep that in mind as you're looking for your, maybe of splitting that out.
Kind of hybrid. So, Christy and John, are there any other courses that we have in our system that we require a fee for, like our FOSS notebooks and things like that? We pay for that, those are consumables. Even though,
Foreign language,
Yeah,
you used to
foreign
be
language.
pay for the workbooks.
Yeah, so some of the elective classes, they,
electives, that's a common thing, even like art supplies and things like that, but any core classes, anything else, math workbooks? Math, science, social studies. Social studies, we don't have any.
I don't think there's a lot of consumables in any of those other classes, where like you have like in a math class, you have the electronic book or the paper version, but they're not writing and
Well, we
interacting
do have
with that.
workbooks though.
At the elementary middle school.
Yeah, and like FOSS notebooks, those are consumables too, and we're paying for those. Great opportunity for students, absolutely want that opportunity for them to annotate and get really engaged in their books. So it's nobody's
Oh, no,
questioning that,
I
it's only
understand.
just the funding part of it, and we'll figure that part out.
Sure, absolutely. And if you guys need any more information from me, or if you want to see some of what is going on in our classrooms, you guys are always welcome.
Thank
So,
you.
And thank you for giving me time this late in the evening. I
Thank
appreciate
you
it.
for staying,
I appreciate
Heidi.
it. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
and I highly recommend you take Heidi up on her offer to visit her classroom. It's entertaining.
Maybe not tomorrow.
Amazing.
I'll be there at 7.
Thank you though.
Yeah, thank you very much. One of the other items that the high school team is proposing is to either propose a new or revised course at the 12th grade level. Advanced Comp is a very popular class, and most students want to take that in the fall because of a very popular college essay unit. If they are assigned it in the spring, it becomes a little less relevant for them. And we see a number of students trying to get in the fall, which has just created an issue with staffing. So we want to take that class and combine it with some of the literature classes, increase student voice and choice in terms of reading more of what they're interested in, while maintaining the skills and rigor of a 12th grade class. So they will be proposing a class that will be taken through the CPC process that will do that. And so more to come on that. We're looking for a May 1st proposal for that class.
Is advanced comp a semester class?
It's currently a semester class, and the proposed idea is to take that and combine it with one or two of the lit classes, and then make it a year-long class rather than a semester-long. Then they can ensure that college writing essay unit for all students enrolled in the fall, while still maintaining the rigor of advanced comp being college prep writing class, by balancing it out with some of the reading that's been so popular.
How does that affect, I'm not so sure, I'll have to think about that. So how does that affect your, that would limit in your choices as the senior.
If you have to take
Right.
a full year.
So you have to take a full year when you're only required. So, I guess what the impact of that would be, because we're offering a lot of classes, the leadership class, and AVID, all these semester-based classes, and all of them kind of become moot when you add a full year class to it. It kind of reduces. Yeah. So I would really be, I guess I'd want to see some really good details to why that would, other than convenience. But I agree with you, the beginning is the best because, but that doesn't mean it's still not worthwhile in the spring either. It just so happens that seniors are writing their essays and for college acceptance and stuff, but I guess if that was the only reason to make it a full-time one, I think I'd want some more.
Well, all students do need 4 credits of English, so their senior year they are taking a full credit. They're taking, in the case of the advanced comp, they're taking advanced comp 1 semester, and then they're taking either World Lit, Brit Lit, or one of the speech classes, or individual reading, 2nd semester. So all students are required to take a whole year of English. And so this is just packaging it differently so we can better service more students in the fall.
I understand, however, you could get art of film, and you could take a package of semester classes, so your schedule would, I'm not saying it's impossible, I just would be resistant to making something a full year when our goal is to try and get, we're offering all these other classes out there. I guess if you can show the impact and the risk is not going to affect anyone negatively. So I've learned that just going through ICE on that. It was, your senior year, that's the gold mine there of all these semester classes that you can take. And you can kind of get to hone in what you want to do, right? And, so just my thoughts.
Certainly for students that would have to take this year-long course, it would limit, unless they wanted to double up and take art of film as yet another class, that would limit their choice, and that would be the only choice for those students.
But this will be going through CPC.
Of course, grammar is a common theme at the high school as well as the high leverage practices. And that moves us to social studies.
So one of the benefits of going through the plan phase of both social studies and literacy at the same time is to be able to really make the links around what literacy are we getting at through our social studies content. So I'm excited about the elementary recommendations. We brought to you a McGraw-Hill Networks pilot proposal mid-year, and we're at the completion of that. And we're proposing to adopt the materials that were piloted. One of the real advantages of this tool is that it's both online and it is text-based, so student text that they can read. It does have almost a workbook style, I guess it is a workbook, resource for students that is embedded in the bundle. It allows, so you're hearing about the interacting with our text, the close reading strategies, the annotating, the ability to be able to go back and revisit, and that's exactly what is embedded within this resource, so we're very excited about that. Additionally, during the pilot, teachers were trying out, for every text that is available in hard copy, there's 3 online texts that are the same, only at different levels. So a teacher can be pushing out different leveled texts, although they look the same other than the text itself. Pictures, graphs, charts, maps, etc. would all look the same. So when students are engaging in conversation around the learning, they're talking about the same thing, it's just that the reading levels have been modified for them. So it's a tool that they've been able to embed into their readers workshop as well as get at the social studies content. So we're proposing to adopt that. The cost of that for a 6-year license would be $112,202. But again, that is for the consumables each year, which would allow the students to read, annotate, and work in the workbook, as well as the multi-leveled texts at every grade level, and then the online content. So with that, we would commit to the units. We would have some curriculum work ahead to identify what are the common units and components within each unit, and what questions for argumentation and text-dependent analysis would be common across classrooms. So again, another opportunity to embed those high leverage practices across the day. And there would be just the cross content along across buildings. Something that's new is the Wisconsin standards are currently under revision for social studies. You heard us talk about something called the C3 framework last year. So as we were reviewing, we were aligning our resource to what will most closely align with the new standards when they do come out. We've seen a draft, and there will be, we believe, a close alignment with that when they are released, hopefully in June. Those would be coming out. But they would go back and just ensure that that alignment is tight and make any adjustments next year as needed. So that's the elementary piece. Any questions about that? Okay.
We need to give them the 12-second pause.
Okay.
We don't have time for 12 seconds.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll speak through middle school. Middle school has committed to teaching and reading, to teaching and assessing informational reading and writing standards. They've identified the ones that are most applicable to their content area, and they plan on embedding DBQs into their curriculum next year. We'll be purchasing some supplemental resources in order to make that happen, which are pretty low in cost. Every grade level has identified 2 to 3 DBQs that they can integrate into their current units. And because of the growing number of students who are enrolling in AP Human Geography as 9th graders, there's a little bit of a focus related to prepping them prior to 9th grade to have more exposure to human geography and then some political science and econ. So we're going to be adding that to current units as well. Next school year, the 7th and 8th grade team are attending an AVID training that we're going to be bringing in the district for them. All grade levels will continue to implement the high leverage practices. And then they will require 2 days, one in the fall and one in the winter, in order to collaborate across buildings to continue their curriculum work. So that one's pretty simple. At the high school, they're also focusing on reading and writing and have identified their standards related to their nonfiction text, primary sources, and other resources. Not next year, but the year after, they're going to look to revise the current 9th grade class, which is called Modern World History. They would be changing that class to Global History. And that class would further integrate DBQs, critical reading, and geography, political science, and econ. They feel like that class is not exploratory enough. It's very history focused, and they want it to be more global focused. They would also be revising U.S. history, and again, this would be for the 1920 school year, and they would be changing the title to Modern U.S. History. They really want to get to current events, which they don't currently access. We also are moving the required civics test into 10th grade because it's better aligned to information that they're going to be learning at that grade level, but it's also a place where we have more students enrolled. Currently, it's at the 11th grade, and we have about 4 different classes administering that test, including various AP classes that students are enrolled in because they took their junior level social studies class as an AP. And so it's just really fragmented right now, so this will become more streamlined for the majority of students. We still have a number of students who take AP history, AP US history as a sophomore, and so at least we'll kind of just have 2 pockets of students who are taking those, the civics tests. American Issues is just looking to update events around political science and increase community involvement, just connected to the district's vision of a graduate. Econ is looking to revise per AP guidelines. And then you're going to see on the textbook purchase document that AP European History and AP Human Geography is just requesting new textbooks for European History and additional copies for growing enrollment in AP Human Geography. They also are going to be possibly looking at evaluating a textbook for modern world history and U.S. history. They want to kind of look at phase 1 by first revising some units to see if textbooks are necessary, and then probably in late fall, early spring, if they feel like they do need a resource, they would then review resources at that time. So next spring, we might be coming forward with perhaps a pilot for 9th and 10th grade history.
I just have a little concern, and as you were going down this list, writing these books, writing these textbooks, we've got the McGraw-Hill Networks, that's about $20,000 a year. How is this affecting our textbook budget? Are we gonna have to increase that? Or are we able to work within what we have, what we have budgeted right now?
So,
I see some smiles over there, like,
yeah.
you
So
have
we
a
did do
plan?
some preliminary planning for that, yes. And we believe we can work it within the current budget that we have. This year is an unusual year because we have 2 major areas going through the process. So I think costs are a little bit higher this year, but between some pre-purchasing that we could do out of some dollars from this year as well as next year, we looked and felt like we'd be okay.
And recurring, like the McGraw-Hill one, the $112,000 for 6 years, will be able to maintain?
That covers the 6 years.
Oh, that's your.
That's it, yeah, yes, so.
Right, I understand that, but I mean, it's like, you kinda figure we're not gonna be spending this, but you still.
Yeah,
And then 6 years down the road, we'll still be able to maintain that. Assuming we keep that.
So let me ask you another question.
yeah.
I'm sorry, are you done?
I think she's still thinking about it.
No, my answer would be, I think if I'm understanding what you're asking, is yes, it's pretty typical of what we are spending annually, what we're bringing forward, an amount like that. When we were purchasing textbooks, if you think about some of the high school textbooks and shipping and all of that, those add up too, so, yeah.
But we're able to maintain it around that same level.
This year is a high year, though, overall. It's not gonna be
But it was
this
planned for
same,
the budget, right?
correct.
Yeah,
So it's not gonna be like that
recommendations are
every
only on
year.
Textbook budget as planned.
Right.
Yeah, we have in our PDSA cycle, we have every content area going through at different times strategically so that we are able to fund every year a different content area. So there was definitely planning in the works. This is just two areas at one time.
Okay. Thank you.
Just going back to English and the annotating in the book versus Post-it notes, which I totally understand might be a benefit academically. So that kicks in, we decide that's a great place to spend textbook money. And then you have other teachers coming to you in future years saying, boy, it'd be really nice if in my science class, we have these paperback textbooks and it'd be nice if they could annotate right in the book. I think we're kind of, we might want to think about this a little harder than we, I mean, she gave a great presentation, I totally understand, I was sold. But as I'm thinking about this, we're gonna end up buying a lot of annotatable textbooks for other things that people would like to keep their textbooks for, and this might get pretty expensive. So I guess maybe what I was thinking is you have a textbook budget. At some point in time, Julie and Kelly decide how much is gonna be in that budget, and between the administration and yourselves, being part of that, you can decide if annotating in the book versus using Post-it notes to annotate and return the book is worth spending your money. Understanding that you could have more requests in the near future for the same thing. I don't know how interested I am in increasing fees. I understand what you're saying, but I don't know how interested I am in increasing fees for whatever, whether it be parking or
Obviously, they reallocate the budget however they're gonna budget it anyway, so.
but I don't know if I'm interested in doing that when we're thinking about, let's raise, can't say food service, but athletic fees, and then that's gonna go towards paying for books in a certain course. I guess you have to prioritize what's the.
Obviously, yeah, it's raising the pot of money and how it gets allocated or not raising, it doesn't matter. It's like that.
Something else to think about. I just wonder if it's gonna turn into a slippery slope because.
Eventually, you gotta make a decision. You can say no sometimes. Any other questions? Anything else Manish wants on this? No? Textbooks?
Well, the document is there. This document contains textbooks for new courses that went through the CPC process this year, as well as books that are required just to growing enrollment, so you can kind of see what the background is on that.
All coming out of the existing budget?
And then that's about 42,478. And then the literacy, what's being requested for literacy and social studies between the K-12 levels for both is 315,871. And again, you can see how that is broken down by level and by content area, with a grand total of $358,350.
I know I'm a broken record, but I'd love to start a shipping business for publishing companies, because they're so full of it with their costs. 11,000, I don't care if it's 7 years.
Books are heavy.
Yeah, I print, I own a printing company, I know how much they weigh. I ship stuff all over the country for a fraction of what they charge. Just be honest and charge the price. Raise, they need it for their operating, charge more for the book, but to lie and say it's under shipping is just ridiculous.
That's how they stay competitive, I guess.
Whatever. Any questions on this? All right. Moving on to the strategic plan, item 12D.
So, since the board has seen this monthly, really there aren't major changes to it. Any changes I've kind of shared with you. We did finish up our listen and learns last week with each of the buildings, and the process is listed there just as a reminder of what we did to create this and some key elements of the plan. We believe that this has been, we've utilized a thorough process. We'll bring this back to the board for action in May, and then as soon as we get approval, we'll start implementing the plan, beginning with the creation of our 18-19 annual Eye on the Goal. And then also just to note that given the changes, and this is something Rick brought up way in the beginning, is we'll be looking at changing our logo wave from 8 lines denoting the 8 schools to 7 lines, which would be 6 schools plus the ESC. What did you say?
I forgot about
that. And the new logo will just slowly be integrated into our documents and such. So, any questions?
Moving on to policies and administrative guideline recommendations and revisions.
Okay, this is our every 6 months. Neola, it's a little lighter than I think the last time, but there are a number of policies, and so if you click on the link there, you'll see the comments, which is in the hyperlink above the box. These are the reasons why the Neola is making these suggested changes. Then the link to each of the policies or the AGs is then listed there, and then in the brief explanation of the changes made, you'll see the title of the policy or AG, and then also the language, or the specific brief description as to why the change was made or suggested. So a lot here. Remember, you get 3 times to kind of review these, so they'll come back in May, both May meetings.
I gotta wonder if they're just trying to keep a job for themselves, because I looked at the very first one, it's like, it just sounds like they're changing some words around.
Yeah, a lot of them are
I'm not
very
understanding what the difference between the two is.
Yeah, it's very small. A lot of them are very small changes, but we pay them to keep us,
To change those.
to make those small changes that could have a big impact down the line, and to build some consistency in it. We were the beta district, so one thing that you're going to see is that some of our policies are PO and then the number, and some are just the number. For example, they made those changes along the way after we had already started. So we were the first district that they put into board docs, so, there are some great things about that, but then we've got some inconsistencies that we're gonna have to come back to, just to the point that there are some just unique things. Moving, Board of Education to school board, and district administrator to superintendent, things like that. So there are a number of those things. I would, if you could look through it, and we would love, if you have questions, what you can do is we could just have an opportunity over the next couple of weeks, 3 weeks, that we can answer those questions offline, and then, kind of come back and share whatever changes or questions we can take on that. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you.
All right, information follow-up? Any special
Just
announcements?
information.
Any requested information requests for the future? You can't ask.
Actually, I'm just wondering how the, I'm sorry. Were you gonna say
No, go
something?
ahead, and then I will after you're done.
I'm just wondering how our fiber optic network is coming along.
Sure, quick update. 75,000 feet in the project. We're at about 60,000 feet that's completed in terms of conduit being placed into the ground. Permitting has always been a bit of a challenge, but we're working through that. We still have a run we're halfway between here and Mill Valley Elementary. We have the Bay Lane run off of Woods Road that we will complete. Obviously, that's a very short run. And then we have a remaining portion over Racine Avenue, or Racine County, into Lakeview. So those are the three parts that are left. Just as a quick summary, once that conduit's in the ground, we have to pull fiber cable through all of that. And they can do that work at about a mile per day. So we understand that we need to get middle school, Muskego Lakes Middle School connected, and that will be our highest priority, our first priority. And we hope to, again, have that somewhere between a May, June handoff for completion.
Once they pull it, how long does it take you to enact it?
We already have internal piping done, so once it's there, we should be able to patch in rather quickly. And so I wish I had an exact amount, but
No, it's fine.
yeah. So,
Lisa?
Thanks. If you'll just indulge me for 1 minute, there was one person I really wanted to acknowledge that, you go so fast and then you kind of forget, and that's Darlene. So she was the person who welcomed me to the board and has been here consistently. Those of you who don't remember the days before electronic, Darlene drove our packets around, dropping them at our houses, and my kids would look out the door and say, "Mom, that lady's here again." It's my board packet, kid.
She still drops off stuff.
Right. So thank you, Darlene, for all of those years. It's been a pleasure. I know you really run the whole show behind the scenes, and, nothing could happen without you. And you've kept up with the technology, probably even better than we have. And so you deserve lots and lots of thanks from, I'm sure, Dean and I and the board as they continue. So I had to say something. Thank you.
Even had us slip into a ditch on Dune Road. It took a couple hours for me to get pulled out. Delivering board.
She's never been bitten by a dog that's chased her. At least not in my house. And my dog always chased her.
So does my dog, yeah. I'm used to it.
Any other requests? One question. We've got 3 cameras set up on tripods around the room, and we have 2, 3 up in there. Are those dead?
Yeah.
And
They're for show, security purposes.
All right.
But you just announced the whole world.
Right, yeah. We'll have to edit that out. We have a 7-second delay, right? No? Okay, it's fast.
Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned at 10:51.
And thanks for the longest meeting, Rick.
Me?
That was great.